Chapter 56. Duanmu pulled me downstairs and walked around the kitchen. We walked out from the kitchen side door and went straight to the garden. The two of us walked along the wall, trying to keep our footsteps as light as possible. Behind a tree closest to the main door, the two of us squatted down. Duanmu was afraid that I would catch a cold, so he put a black coat on us. Then he whispered to me, "Be careful not to expose your position." I gestured for him not to speak and listened carefully for any movements outside the wall. It seemed that Yuexin hadn't gone far. She was on the other side of the wall. I heard Yuexin say, "What is it that you have to talk to me face to face? What can't you say over the phone?" "I don't want to either. It's about Duanmu Quebec," a man's voice. Duanmu whispered into my ear, "This is Director Lee who called me." I nodded. "Duanmu Gidge. What is it about Duanmu, Gidge?" Yuexin asked. "I miss you, don't play dumb. Didn't you want me to send someone to get Duanmu drunk, then take indecent photos and send them to you?" The man's voice was filled with helplessness. "And then?" Yuexin asked in a lukewarm tone. "That girl didn't succeed, but she told me that Duanmu had sex with her. When she went back to find Duanmu, he wouldn't admit it. What do you think should be done?" Hearing this, it seemed that Duanmu instructions had been conveyed. "What? You actually let her go onto Duanmu Gidge's bed? What right does she have?" It was clear that Yuexin was angry. "Eldest miss, don't talk about this anymore. Back then, you were the one who told me that as long as I did as you said, I would be able to increase our company's profits by 25%. That was why I agreed to it. Now that something like this has happened, if Duanmu is serious about it, you will also be responsible." "That wasn't my intention at all. I just wanted a few photos, but you decided on your own and let that woman seduce Duanmu Gidge. Forget it, it's already come to this point, there's no point in saying this." "Then what should we do next?" "You do this. For a week you keep that woman under control. Next week, when everyone is at home, you let that woman come here and cause trouble. The main reason is to make Duanmu take responsibility for her. When Duanmu and the others show up, you guys come out and use the woman's name as the company's leader to get Duanmu to give you more profits. I'll take care of the rest." As soon as I heard Yuexin say this, Duanmu pulled my arm, hinting me to go back. I shook my head, telling him to stay and listen. He also shook his head, indicating that he had to go. There was no other way. I followed his decision and went back to my room. Just as I entered my room, I didn't even have time to rest before Duanmu walked to my side and began to take off my clothes. I shouted at him, "What are you doing? It's too late. Take off your clothes and change into your pajamas." After he said that, he took off his coat and changed into his pajamas. It was obvious that I was an obedient wife. I also changed into my pajamas obediently. Duanmu stuffed our changed clothes into the wardrobe. Duanmu turned on the TV in the bedroom. He laid on the bed and fiddled with the remote control. Since I had been outside in the garden for a while, my hands were a little dirty. I went to the bathroom to wash them. As soon as I finished, there was a knock on the door. Coming. Duanmu got off the bed and ran to the door to open it. I walked to his side and saw Yuexin standing at the door with a plate of fruit. "Duanmu Gidge, I just washed the fruit. I brought it to you," Yuexin said to Duanmu Quebec. She didn't look at Duanmu Quebec. Instead, she scanned the two of us from top to bottom. Then, she stretched her neck to look inside the room. "Thank you. Yuexin, what are you looking at?" Duanmu took the fruit and asked. Nothing. I'm going back." Then Yuexin turned around and walked back to her room. It wasn't until Yuexin closed the door that Duanmu pulled me inside. He locked the door and put the plate of fruit on the table. Then he sat on the bed and gasped for breath. "What's wrong? Are you not feeling well?" I worriedly looked at him and touched his face. "Wifey, I'm fine. I just didn't expect her anti-detection ability to be so strong." Duanmu laid on the pillow and looked at the ceiling. What's going on? I looked at him with a puzzled expression. I can guarantee you that before Yuexin came back, she walked around the garden. She smelled like roses. She went to the garden to see if we were there. If she wanted to leave after eavesdropping on them, she would have run into them and it would have been too late. Understand. So when you came back, you asked me to change clothes and pretend to watch TV. It was to mislead her and make her think that we were in the bedroom the whole time. Is that what you meant? That's right, that's what I meant. I guessed that she would come to look for us, but I didn't expect that she would actually take a stroll around the garden. Looks like I underestimated her too much in the past. Look at the things she said. I really couldn't imagine that she was actually such a ruthless person. Duanmu-Ke held his forehead as he lay there, looking especially distressed. What are we going to do next? Expose her? I asked as I lay down next to him. No, we can't expose her. I want to continue acting with her. Of course, I want to be the main character and not let her control me. Duanmu-Ke hugged me and said, Wifey, I want to apologize to you. Apologize for what? I asked in confusion as I lay in his embrace. Actually, I used to suspect that you were hostile towards Yuexin, and even wanted to protect her. But as time passed, I slowly realized that she was getting worse and worse. Not only did she harm her friends, but she also harmed you. Now, in order to achieve her goals, she won't even let her family off. Well, maybe she doesn't even see us as family. There were so many people in Kurosawa, but he didn't order them. My father carried her to the hospital and left my mother to take care of me. She was given everything. She ate well, wore good clothes, used good things. She received the best education since she was young. She and I both went to an aristocratic school. With her qualifications, she wouldn't have been able to get in. But now, if my parents knew that she had become like this, their hearts would ache. Duanmu-Ke said angrily. Okay. Don't be angry. It's all in the past. I patted Duanmu-Ke's back and softly comforted him. Chapter 57. Ever since that night, I rarely saw Yuexin. Every day, she would leave early and return late, so I didn't pay too much attention to her. Now, in my heart, I only cared about the Duanmu family and Duanmu, Quebec. This week was like the calm before the storm. Thinking about what Yuexin had said, I guessed that her plan would come to fruition soon. These days, Duanmu-Ke was also very busy. Aside from the company's matters, he was also secretly arranging how to deal with Yuexin. During this time, Duanmu-Ke looked for Michelle once and told her something. As for what he told her, he didn't tell me. However, I believed that Duanmu-Ke had his own plans, and I respected his arrangements. On the morning of the weekend, I woke up early and ran to the garden to trim the flowers in the rose pond. As usual, Yuexin left early and returned late, so I didn't see her at all. Duanmu Tachio brought Duanmu-Ke back to Kurosawa for a meeting early in the morning. The Kurosawa was going to hold its 10th anniversary celebration next month, and the entire Kurosawa was busy with it. Xiao Fengya went shopping with the other wives she was close with, so I was the only one left in the huge Duanmu house. I stood by the rose pond, looking at the flower pond that Duanmu-Ke had meticulously built for me. My mood was very good. Just as I was concentrating on trimming the flowers, the door was pushed open, and a young, tall, and fashionably dressed girl walked in. She was pulling a suitcase in her hand. When she walked to the middle of the courtyard, she stopped and shouted, "Someone! I'm so tired." I glanced at her and didn't answer. At this time, the girl saw me standing in the middle of the garden and walked towards me. She stopped in front of me and scanned me from head to toe. Then she put the suitcase in front of me and said, "Who are you?" I don't care anymore. Help me bring my luggage in. By the way, is Gij Duanmu here?" I looked at her and didn't say anything. The girl looked at me again and said, "Why don't you say anything? Forget it, I'll go look for it myself." "They're not here." I kept my head down, pruning the flowers, not looking at her. "Why aren't they here? Where are they? I want to find Duanmu Gij." With that, the girl pulled her suitcase towards the door. Listening to her call me brother Duanmu, I was in a bad mood. I asked her, "Who are you?" I said they're not here. You think I'm not here just because you say so? And who are you? The girl put down her luggage and stood in front of me. I ignored her and turned back to the room. Suddenly she grabbed me from behind and said, "Don't go. Make yourself clear." Just then, Duanmu K appeared in front of us and said, "What are you doing? Xinyao, how come you're here?" Duanmu Gij. When the girl saw Duanmu K, she ran over and threw herself into Duanmu K's arms. Duanmu K hugged the girl and spun her around twice. I stood next to them with a dark expression on my face. I frowned and didn't know what to do. Looking at the two of them being so lovey-dovey, I couldn't stand it anymore. I walked over to Duanmu K and patted his shoulder. "Xiao K, shouldn't you introduce us?" I glared at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K looked at me, then turned around and hugged me from behind. He gently kissed me on the cheek, then looked at the girl and said, "Little Xinyao, let me introduce you. This is Cold Glaze. From now on you should call her sister-in-law." Then Duanmu K leaned close to my ear and said, "Wife, this is my little sister, Duanmu Xinyao. How come I've never seen her before?" I looked at Duanmu K in disbelief. So it's sister-in-law." Duanmu Xinyao suddenly threw herself at me and hugged me tightly. Sister-in-law, sister-in-law, I'm little Xinyao." I couldn't get rid of Duanmu Xinyao, who was clinging to me. I looked helplessly at Duanmu K, pleading for his help. Duanmu K looked at me and said, "My little sister has been living abroad since she was young. She's been very independent since she was a child. Because she likes freedom, she's always been unfettered. She doesn't need to take care of the Kurosawa's affairs. She can do whatever she wants. Now she's a fashion designer for a top fashion brand. She's quite famous. Sister-in-law, sister-in-law, brother, sister-in-law is so beautiful. Like it." Duanmu Xinyao hugged me tightly, not wanting to let go. All right, hurry up and let go of your sister-in-law. I'm jealous." Duanmu K glanced at her as he spoke. "All right." Duanmu Xinyao reluctantly let go of my arm. Then she grabbed my arm and looked back at Duanmu Quebec. "Brother, help me carry my luggage." Then she pulled me back to the living room. The three of us sat on the sofa in the living room. Duanmu Xinyao leaned on my shoulder, looking at Duanmu K with a mocking expression. Duanmu K glared at her, then sat down next to me and leaned on my other shoulder. I looked at them helplessly. I suddenly felt like I was taking care of two children. "Oh yeah, Xinyao, why did you come back?" Duanmu K found a topic to talk about, moving Duanmu Xinyao's hand away from me. "Brother, I came back because I missed Mom, Dad, and you. Don't reject me, okay? I'm so obedient." Duanmu Xinyao moved Duanmu K's hand away and took the opportunity to hug me. I leaned my head against her soft chest, blushing. It was very awkward. Duanmu K suddenly grabbed my arm and pulled me out of Xinyao's embrace. I lost my balance and fell into Duanmu K's arms. Listening to his heartbeat, Duanmu K's arms were indeed more comfortable. Duanmu Xinyao looked at Duanmu K hugging me. She angrily put her hands on her waist and shouted, "Brother, you're so naughty." While we were fooling around, Yuexin pushed open the door and walked into the living room. She looked at us but didn't say anything. She walked around the sofa and prepared to go upstairs. Duanmu Xinyao saw Yuexin and suddenly stood up from the sofa. She looked at Yuexin and said, "Hey, can't you see us?" Yuexin stood there and didn't turn her head to look at us. She also didn't say anything. Duanmu Xinyao saw that she didn't respond and became angry. She walked over to Yuexin and stood in front of her. She scanned her from head to toe and said, "We haven't seen each other for a long time, and you're still as indifferent as ever. You're still as low as ever." Duanmu Xinyao glared at Yuexin. Yuexin looked at her and said, "Xinyao, you're back. Long time no see." "Xinyao? Who are you to call Xinyao by that name? Is it because I'm not here for so long that you've forgotten who you are?" Xinyao stared at Yuexin arrogantly. Her eyes filled with dissatisfaction. Chapter 58. Yuexin stood in front of the Duanmu Xinyao and clenched her fists. She looked at her without saying a word, and Xinyao didn't have any intention of backing down. She stood in front of Yuexin with her hands on her waist and said to Yuexin, "Brother, why is this woman still in our house? I don't like her at all. I've never liked her since I was little." Yuexin glanced at the Duanmu K and then looked at me. Then she said to the Duanmu Xinyao, "Miss Duanmu, I'm going back first." After she said that, Yuexin walked upstairs. "Stop right there. You're not allowed to leave." The Duanmu Xinyao roared at Yuexin. Yuexin didn't turn around. The Duanmu Xinyao chased after her and suddenly grabbed Yuexin's hand. Yuexin lost her balance and fell down the stairs. She laid on the ground. Xinyao didn't expect her to fall and was shocked. She stood there blankly. The Duanmu K and I quickly walked over. I first looked at Xinyao. She stood there in a panic and didn't know what to do. I had the Duanmu K look after Xinyao first, and then I walked over to Yuexin. Because of inertia, she fell down the stairs. Her arms, knees, and ankles all had different degrees of abrasions. I didn't know why, but when I saw her fall, I thought back to the time when I fell down the stairs. My heart ached. I originally wanted to reach out to help Yuexin up, but seeing her fall, I still decided to help her up first. As soon as my outstretched hand touched Yuexin, she suddenly pushed me away. I lost my balance and sat on the ground. The Duanmu K saw me fall and immediately ran to my side to help me up. He said to me, "Wife, are you okay?" Then he looked at Yuexin, who was still lying on the ground, and asked, "What are you doing? Shaoli was kind enough to help you up, but you actually pushed her?" Yuexin looked at the Duanmu K and didn't answer. At this time the Duanmu Xinyao got angry. She walked in front of Yuexin, grabbed Yuexin's collar and said, "Yuexin, is it because mom and dad are too good to you so you can treat us even worse? You dare to push my sister-in-law? Are you tired of living?" Yuexin tried to shake off her hand and retorted, "Let go of me, hurry up and let go of me. I just want to go upstairs." Yuexin grabbed the Duanmu Xinyao's hand. Her nails were too long, and when she struggled, she scratched Xinyao's hand. "Ah!" Xinyao screamed. When she saw that her hand was scratched, she became even more angry. She sat on top of Yuexin and grabbed Yuexin's collar with one hand. "You bad woman!" She used her other hand to slap Yuexin's face. Only to hear a paw sound, Xinyao's slap directly slapped Yuexin to the ground. It seemed that Xinyao's slap was fierce. The corner of Yuexin's mouth was broken. She forced herself to sit up and covered her swollen face with her hand. She didn't say anything and just sat on the ground with her head lowered. Xinyao saw that Yuexin didn't respond and reached out to hit her again. I hurriedly asked the Duanmu K to stop her. The Duanmu K rushed in front of Xinyao and carried her back. Xinyao waved her fist and said, "Let go of me, I'm going to hit her." "She didn't listen to me, bad woman. Let go of me." The Duanmu K brought Xinyao into the study. I glanced at Yuexin, who was sitting on the ground, and reached out to help her up. This time she didn't shake me off. After she stood up, she covered her face and didn't say anything. She just stood there with her head lowered. I rummaged through the medical box and found an alcohol cotton ball. I handed it to Yuexin. She looked at me and didn't reach out to take it. I understood her concern and said, "You don't want me to wipe the alcohol cotton ball for you, do you?" Yuexin glanced at me and took the alcohol cotton ball. Then she turned around and went upstairs. I looked at her back and shook my head helplessly. At this time, I remembered that the angry Xinyao had been brought into the study by the Duanmu Quebec. It seemed that I had to go and comfort this little girl. I pushed open the door to the study. Xinyao was still sitting on the sofa, throwing a tantrum. Duanmu K was sitting next to her, shaking his head helplessly. When I pushed open the door, both of them saw me at the same time and ran over to me. But the Duanmu K was a step faster. He hugged me tightly in his arms and said, "Wifey, you have to save me. I can't take it anymore. I've always been afraid of Xinyao throwing a tantrum. When she throws a tantrum, she takes it out on me. You see, she bit me just now when I was trying to stop her. The Duanmu stretched out his arm, and sure enough, there was a deep red bite mark on it. Before I could comfort him, Xinyao came in front of us. Seeing that the Duanmu wasn't letting go of me, she stomped on his foot. The Duanmu was in so much pain that he hugged his foot and jumped around the room. Seeing that the Duanmu had let go of me, Xinyao took the opportunity to lie in my arms. With an aggrieved expression, she rubbed against my chest. As she rubbed against my chest, she cried and said, "Sis-in-law Shaoli, I hate her. She bullies Bao Bao. Bao Bao is not happy." I had no choice but to hug her and pat her back. "Be good. It's okay. It's okay. Don't cry, don't cry." Xinyao was still lying in my arms, rubbing against my chest. My face flushed red. As she rubbed against my chest, she said, Sis-in-law's chest is so soft." Hearing this, the Duanmu walked over to Xinyao. He grabbed Xinyao's arms and forcefully pulled her off of me. He said, Little Xinyao, you pervert. You won't even let your sister-in-law off. She's mine. You're a bad person. Gidge, you're the bad one. Sis-in-law Shaoli is mine. Mine. Xinyao struggled with all her might. The two siblings were making a ruckus in the study room. Looking at the two of them playing like children, she felt both angry and amused. After watching them fight for a while, they seemed to be tired. They sat down on the sofa and gasped for breath. I sat across from them and looked at Xinyao. Xinyao, don't be angry. Tell your sister-in-law, why do you hate her so much? Xinyao sat up from the sofa and looked at me. Sis-in-law Shaoli, that woman is really bad. I really don't like her. When she first came to our house, I didn't like her. I thought that I was the only girl in the Duanmu family, but Mom and Dad told me that this girl was very pitiful and that I should get along well with her. At this time, the Duanmu walked to my side and hugged me from behind. This little sister of mine thinks that you Exin stole Mom and Dad and stole me. She's been hostile to her since she was a child. Ever since Yuexen came to our house, whenever my parents bought something for Xinyao, they would buy an extra set for Yuexen. My little sister is very unhappy. Then how can I be happy? I don't want to use the same things as her. Duanmu Xinyao pursed her lips and said unhappily. Chapter 59. What's going on? I looked at Xinyao and asked. It's like this. Exin Yao told me about her dispute with Yuexin. Yuexin and I are about the same age. When she first came to my house, she was too shabby, so my mother picked out all the clothes I didn't want to wear and gave them to Yuexin. At first I didn't object. After all, they were all old clothes, and I didn't think much of it. It wasn't until the incident on my birthday that I realized that she was a thief. A thief? Where did that come from? I looked at Exin Yao puzzled. Exin Yao sighed and said, It happened on my 10th birthday. My father specially arranged a birthday party for me. That morning, my mother prepared a small dress for me to wear at the party. I really liked it because it was specially made for me. I didn't want to wear it, so I planned to wear it at the party that night. So I put the dress on my bed and went out to play. But when I got tired and came back, I saw Yuexin wearing my dress and looking at herself in the mirror in my room. I was very angry, so I rushed in and asked her to take off the dress. She kept struggling, and when we were tearing, the dress was torn. I cried because I really liked that dress. Later, when my parents arrived and saw the situation, they didn't scold her. They just told her to go back to her room. I felt that it was very unfair. She was an outsider, but my parents still helped her. I felt very uncomfortable. From then on, my impression of her became worse and worse. I can testify to that. Because of the dress snatching incident, my sister casually wore a dress that day. She was in a bad mood the whole time, and it left a deep shadow in her heart. Duanmu hugged me and nodded. Anyway, I really hate her. At that time, the three of us were in the same high school. At that time, there were a lot of girls who chased after my brother. Yuexen treated them like enemies. She offended a lot of people at that time. Actually, I knew that Yuexin liked my brother. In other people's eyes I didn't know, but in my eyes, I felt that her love was a bit perverted. After listening to Xian Yao's evaluation of Yuexin, I felt that it was very reasonable. I turned to Duanmu K and said, Xian Yao is very smart. Do you want to tell Xian Yao everything that Yuexin has done and what she wants to do? Duanmu K nodded. The two of us told Duanmu everything that Yuexin did to me ever since I married into the Duanmu K family, until I had a miscarriage, and everything that happened that night when Duanmu K and I eavesdropped on Yuexin's scheme to Xian Yao. After Xian Yao heard everything, she slammed the coffee table and said, Too much. How can this woman be so bad? It seems like I was too light on her just now. Too hateful. Brother. Does Mom and Dad know? Duanmu K shook his head and said, I didn't tell Mom and Dad about this. I don't think it's necessary. I alone am enough to deal with her. I should have insisted on opposing Mom and Dad taking her in. I'm so angry. Why didn't I kick her out at that time? Xian Yao was so angry that her face turned red. She sat on the sofa and pouted. Okay, don't think about her. Xian Yao, are you hungry? I'll get you something to eat. I casually changed the topic. Sister-in-law is the best. I'm not hungry at all. I just want to chat with you and brother. I've been away from home for so long. I haven't felt the warmth of home in a long time. Xian Yao's face was no longer tense. She smiled and looked at me. Then why did you leave your parents to live on your own? I liked this lively and cheerful girl from the bottom of my heart. I liked her carefreeness and her cuteness. Xin Yao sighed and said, Originally I could have stayed at home, but I yearned for a free and unrestrained life. Moreover, there are people I hate here, so I chose to leave. My parents also know my character, so they didn't stop me. Occasionally I would come back to see them and they would feel happy. I stood up and walked in front of Xian Yao. I held her hand and said, Xian Yao, since you're back, don't leave. Stay with us, okay? Xian Yao threw herself into my arms and softly said, Okay, sister-in-law. I knew sister-in-law was the best. You're much better than my bad brother. Every time I come back, he doesn't try to keep me. Xin Yao grumbled as she rubbed against my chest. I didn't know why, but this little girl liked to rub against my chest. When Duanmu K saw that Xian Yao was starting to make a move on me, he curled his lips and hugged Xian Yao from behind. He pulled her back and said, Let go. She's mine, you pervert. Let go. Xian Yao turned around and stomped on Duanmu Quebec. Then she made a face at Duanmu K and said, You can't catch me, right? Piss you off. I'm running. After saying that, Xian Yao ran out of the study. Duanmu K covered his foot and looked at Xian Yao, who was running away. He said with a helpless expression, Stop right there. When I catch you, you'll be crippled. After saying that, he also ran out of the study. The two of them played around in the house. Standing at the door of the study, I saw that Yuexin's bedroom door was half open. She stood at the door and stared blankly at Duanmu K's location. Looking at her worried expression, it seems that her love for Duanmu K has never changed. But when I thought about how she had done so many things to harm others for her own goals, my heart felt very uncomfortable. Yuexin seemed to notice me looking at her. She looked at me, then returned to her room and closed the door. Duanmu K pulled Xian Yao in front of me and said with a flaunting expression, Wife, look, I caught the pervert who took advantage of you. Tell me, how do you want to deal with her? Sister-in-law, don't believe what he said. My Gij is a bad guy. He's a big bad guy. Xian Yao struggled with all her strength, her face red. I looked at the two of them and leaned against the door, looking at them with a smile on their faces. Wife, what are you thinking? Hurry up, I can't control her anymore. Duanmu K looked at me helplessly. I thought for a while, then walked to Duanmu K's side. I held his hand that was holding Xian Yao and grabbed it. Then I hugged his neck and kissed him deeply. Duanmu K was stunned and stood there, not knowing what to do. Xin Yao also blankly stood at the side, stunned by my actions. I let go of Duanmukei's hand and waved at Exenyao, indicating for her to leave. She immediately understood my meaning and made a face at Duanmukei and said, "Gidge, I told you that sister-in-law is on my side. I'm leaving, you and sister-in-law have a good time." Then she skipped upstairs. Duanmukei wanted to break free from me, but it seemed that I couldn't control him anymore. Helpless, I had to use my trump card. I looked at him with a bashful expression and said, "Husband, let's go back to the room." Chapter 60. Ever since Xinyao had returned, the atmosphere at home had become even warmer. Every day I could see her happy face, and I could also see her and Duanmukei fooling around. That night, I overheard Yuxian's plan, but she didn't carry it out. Later, Duanmukei told me that because of Xinyao's appearance, Yuxian had temporarily postponed her plan with Director Li. In the blink of an eye, it was time for Kurosawa's 10th anniversary celebration. During this time, everyone was busy preparing for it. Ever since I had returned to Duanmu's home, Duanmu Tachio had assigned me to take care of some matters in Kurosawa. Before the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Black Nightmare Society, we left early and returned late. Most of our time was spent in meetings, discussing every day how to make the celebration a success. Our life of leaving early and returning late had exhausted us both mentally and physically. The 10th anniversary celebration of Kurosawa was held in the Black Nightmare Guild Hall. That day, all the Kurosawa people were present. My parents also attended the celebration as guests. On that day, Yuxin, Xinyao, Duanmukei, and I arrived early to receive the guests. Since the celebration started at 5 in the afternoon, there weren't many people present. Xinyao and I strolled around the venue. In the crowd, I saw Han Hao's figure. I hadn't seen him for a long time, but he still looked the same as before. He hadn't changed at all. Xinyao also saw Han Hao. She ran to Han Hao's side and greeted him. The two of them chatted and laughed. I stood in place and watched them. I didn't know what Xinyao said to him, but Han Hao looked in the direction of Xinyao's finger and saw me. I had no choice but to walk in front of them. "Han Hao, long time no see." I waved at Han Hao. "So you know each other. That's great. Then I don't need to introduce you." Xinyao wrapped her arm around Han Hao's and leaned on his shoulder. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. "Shaoli, long time no see." We looked at each other without saying a word. His gaze was still as gentle as ever. "Han Hao, Gidge, do you need help with anything? Sister-in-law and I don't have anything to do, so we can go with you." Xinyao looked at Han Hao and said sweetly. Han Hao glanced at his watch, then turned to Xinyao. "Little Xinyao, I have a meeting right now, so I can't accompany you. I'll find you after the meeting, okay?" It had been a long time since I'd heard Han Hao's gentle voice. I didn't know why, but my heart suddenly trembled. "Okay, then we'll wait for you to come back." Xinyao reluctantly let go of Han Hao's arm. Han Hao walked to the door. As he walked past me, he glanced at me. My eyes met his, and an indescribable feeling welled up in my heart. Looking at Han Hao's back as he left, I could feel that he was very lonely. At this moment, Xinyao wrapped her arm around mine and whispered into my ear, "Sister-in-law, what do you think of Han Hao?" Hearing Xinyao's question, my face heated up. I didn't know how to answer, so I could only ask, "Why would you ask that?" Xinyao looked at me and said shyly, "Sister-in-law, I'll tell you a secret. You can't tell anyone else." Okay, I promise you." I smiled and looked at her. Like him. I looked at Xinyao, her face was brimming with happiness. When I was young, I already liked him very much. He's different from my brother. Sometimes my brother's temper isn't good. Although he never throws a tantrum at me, but every time I see him scold his subordinates, I feel especially scared. But Han Hao is different. He's always very gentle to everyone. Even if his subordinates do something wrong, he won't get angry. I like to look at him, even if I just silently accompany him, I still feel very happy. So Xinyao liked Han Hao. Xinyao was right. Han Hao was a very gentle boy, and he was very compatible with a lively and cute girl like Xinyao. But I didn't know why, but when I heard Xinyao say that, I felt very uncomfortable. Sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, what are you thinking about? Xinyao shook my arm and asked. I'm not thinking about anything. If you like him, just confess to him. If you don't say it, how will he know that you like him? Am I right? I stroked Xinyao's hair and said to her. Xinyao covered her face in embarrassment and said, Actually, I've hinted to him before, but he's never answered me. I don't know what to do. Every time I leave home, I run away. I'm afraid that he won't answer me, and I'm also afraid that he'll reject me. Sister-in-law, what should I do? I looked at Xinyao and comforted her. Be good, don't think too much. If you really like him, then you have to face the problem. Even if you're rejected, you've tried. You won't feel that it's a pity. Don't worry, your brother and I will support you. Okay, I know. When the celebration is over, I'll confess to him. Then I'll know that sister-in-law is the best. Xinyao threw herself into my arms. Looking at her innocent face, the uncomfortable feeling in my heart slowly dissipated. Xinyao and I felt that the hall was too boring, so we went to the door. Xinyao told me that there was a good Western restaurant near the hall. We slacked off and went out to eat. As expected, the restaurant's environment was good. We ordered some food and sat there to chat. Xinyao kept telling me about her and Han Hao's childhood. While we were happily chatting, we saw two people come in through the door. It was Yu Xian and another man. However, they didn't see us and went in the opposite direction. I signaled Xinyao to be quiet. She also saw Yu Xian and the man. She curled her lips and said, She's really a slut. Even her taste in men is so bad. I furrowed my brows when I saw where they were sitting. The distance between us and them was a bit big. Although the Western restaurant was quiet, I couldn't hear what they were talking about. Xinyao seemed to know what I wanted to do. She waved her hand and called the waiter over. Hello, could you please change my seat? I want to sit over there. Thank you. Xinyao pointed at the seat behind Yu Xian and the man. I gave Xinyao a thumbs up and pulled her to sit in the booth. It just so happened that the booth had a gauze curtain. After the meal was served, we put down the gauze curtain so that the people outside couldn't see us. While we were eating, we carefully listened to the conversation of the two people behind us. How's the preparation? Director Li. When we heard Yu Xian's voice, we realized that the man was Director Li. Xinyao and I looked at each other and nodded. It seemed that Yu Xian and that man were going to talk about something very important. Chapter 61. You still don't trust me? The man asked. Miss Yu, we've already worked together for a long time. You should trust me. Trust you. Last time you said that woman could help me, but in the end, didn't Duanmu K ruin everything for me? I can't believe I gave you this chance. If you don't grasp it, I can guarantee that you won't get anything, Yu Xian said fiercely. Her tone was indeed her style. Miss Yu, I understand what you mean. Don't worry, I'll definitely handle this matter beautifully for you. Is there any problem with that woman? It seemed Yu Xian was talking about the matter that Duanmu K and I had overheard last time. I didn't think too much about it and continued to listen to what she had to say. That woman didn't want to come, but I talked to her a few times and she agreed, the man said with a chuckle. You did something, didn't you? Yu Xian wasn't an idiot. She understood what the man had done. Of course. Otherwise, how could she have been so obedient? But there's one thing I don't understand. At that time we agreed to carry out the plan in a week. Why did it suddenly get delayed? Actually, I didn't want it to be delayed. The plan was going well, but who knew that Duanmu Xinyao would come back? That woman's appearance disrupted all my plans. I didn't want her to participate in my plan. She would definitely ruin it. It seemed that Xinyao had a great influence on Yu Xian. Could it be that Yu Xian was afraid of Xinyao? Do you want me to take action and capture that woman? Hearing Director Li's words, Xinyao couldn't sit still. I held her arm to stop her from being so agitated. Yu Xian said, just based on you? You dare to touch the eldest daughter of the Duanmu family. You're really daring. You have to be ruthless. If you're not ruthless, how can you achieve your goals? As long as you say it, I'll definitely accomplish it, the man said with a smile. Forget it. I don't want to hurt her. If I hurt her, the Duanmu K would hate me. Yuexin was still worried about Duanmu K's feelings. The man said, Miss Yu, you're not as simple as you make yourself out to be. There's a demon in your heart. Since you like the Duanmu K, how could you have the heart to harm him? You don't understand. I didn't harm him. I just used some tricks to lead him bit by bit into my trap. What do you know? I don't agree with Yuexin's way of doing things. She built her selfish love on other people's pain. This woman is too scary. You have too much character, but I like it. How about you follow me? The man said with a smile. Don't talk nonsense. I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. You'd better make arrangements for tonight's matter. Don't affect my plan. Otherwise I won't have a good time, and you won't have a good time either. Yuexin's tone was obviously serious. Yes, Miss Yu. After the man answered, the two of them didn't say anything else. Xinyao and I were afraid of being discovered by them, so we simply ate and left after paying the bill. After leaving the restaurant, Xinyao couldn't hold her temper anymore. She angrily said, Yuexin, you bitch. I didn't expect you to be so bad. Sister-in-law, why did you have to stop me? Why didn't you just let me beat her up? I pulled Xinyao's arm and said, Silly girl, if you rashly make a move on her, she will certainly be on guard. Your brother's plan, won't it be ruined? Trust your brother and let him handle this matter. But, I'm so angry. I really want to beat her up. It's not that I don't trust my brother. It's just that I can't control myself when she insults my brother and you like that. Xinyao angrily stomped her feet. I held her in my arms and patted her back. Be good, don't be angry. Let's go back and tell your brother about this matter. We'll see how he handles it. Okay. Xinyao held my arm and we walked back to the venue. After returning to the venue, we found Duanmu K and told him what we heard Yuexin and Director Li say. After listening, Duanmu K sank into deep thought. I looked at his furrowed brows and touched his face. What's wrong? He shook his head and said, It's nothing. Is it hard to handle? I knew what he was worried about. That's not it. These things are within my expectations. I'm just worried that my parents won't be able to handle this matter because of their reputation. At this time, Xinyao jumped in front of us. Brother, leave this matter to me. Dad and Mom, listen to me. I'll explain it to them. How are you going to explain this? How are you going to explain that Yuexin did this? Do you have any proof? Duanmu K shook his head. Xinyao curled her lips. Then tell me what to do. I held Xinyao's hand and said, Your brother's concern is correct. Yuexin definitely won't admit that she did this, nor will she show it. If something happens, she'll definitely push all the blame onto Director Li. She'll definitely protect herself. Duanmu K thought for a moment and said, I heard from Michelle that Director Li arranged for her to cause trouble at the start of our party tonight. But I've already told her what to say. I've also told her what to say. Then Duanmu K turned to Xinyao and said, Xinyao, when our father speaks tonight, you'll stand next to Dad and Mom. You'll see what Michelle says and you'll explain it to Dad and Mom. Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. Xinyao nodded. Duanmu K suddenly hugged me and said, I'm sorry, wifey. Although I know she's bad, I still can't kick her out of the house. I know you're not happy living with her. Can you give me some time? Brother. Why? Isn't it great to use this opportunity to kick Yuexin out? Why can't you kick her out? Xinyao asked in confusion. Duanmu K hugged me even tighter and said, I'm sorry, I don't have any solid proof. I've already guessed it. Even if Director Li stands up and says that Yuexin ordered him to do this, Yuexin will be able to find an excuse to get rid of it. Without solid proof, I can't explain it to Dad and Mom. I hugged Duanmu K and patted his back. Hubby, don't think too much. understand you. You don't have to bear it alone. We're a family. Why can't we bear it together? Besides, what else can she do? No matter what, I'll always be with you, right? Duan Muke hugged me and said, "That's enough. Your words are enough." Chapter 62. Yuexin stood by the side of the stage with nothing to do. I glanced at her, my heart calm. After all, she wasn't the main character of today's event. Duan Muke walked onto the stage. Standing in the middle of the stage, he spoke into the microphone. "Everyone, please be quiet." The noisy crowd gradually quieted down, and everyone's eyes focused on the stage. Duan Muke continued. "Today, we are holding a celebration of the 10th anniversary of the founding of the Kurosawa. We would like to thank all the members of the Kurosawa for their contributions to the Kurosawa. At the same time, we would like to welcome all the guests present. Now, let us welcome the founder of the Kurosawa, Mr. Duanmu Tachio, to give a speech." The audience applauded. Duanmu Tachio walked to the middle of the stage and began to speak to the audience. In the crowd, I saw a man pulling Michelle from the back of the crowd to the front. Looking at Michelle's serious expression, I guessed that man was the so-called Director Lee. The man pulled Michelle to the front. Duanmu Tachio was still talking non-stop about the history of the Kurosawa and his personal feelings. After about 10 minutes, Duanmu Tachio said, "I would like to thank all the members of the Kurosawa for supporting the work of the Duanmu family. The Kurosawa will get better and better. Thank you." Duanmu Tachio bowed deeply on the stage. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Duanmu Tachio walked to the back of the stage. Just then the man stood up and shouted, "Wait!" Duanmu Lixiong stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at the man below the stage. He asked seriously, "Who are you?" As the leader of the Kurosawa, there must be many things that you don't know about. The man looked at Duanmu Tachio. "Especially your son." Hearing this, the audience went into an uproar. Duanmu K looked at me, indicating that I shouldn't be impulsive. Everything should be within his expectations. Duanmu Lixiong calmed down and said, "I believe in my son's character. Since you came here with a purpose, then say what you want to say." The man pulled Michelle to the front. Pointing at her, he said to Duanmu Tachio, "Celebrities don't beat around the bush. When your son was negotiating with our company, he slept with this woman from our company at your Black Mamba Hotel." Hearing this, the audience's discussion became even louder. God, I didn't know that young Master K was this kind of person. He used to be a womanizer. I thought he would change a little after he got married. I didn't expect him to be so stubborn. What's wrong with this woman? How could young Master K do this to her? Could it be that she seduced young Master K? Hearing the discussion, Duanmu Tachio's face became more and more unsightly. He turned to look at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K looked at him calmly and didn't say anything. Duanmu Tachio turned to the man. "Do you have any proof that Duanmu K did this?" "The witness is right here. If you don't believe me, you can ask her." Then he pushed Michelle forward. Duanmu Tachio said to Michelle, "Tell me the truth. If it's true, the Duanmu family will take responsibility for you. If I find out that you lied to me, you should know what I will do." Michelle stood in front of the stage and let out a long breath. That night, I really did spend the night in the same room as Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu Tachio's eyes widened and he looked at Michelle in disbelief. At this time, Xin Yao walked to his side and supported him. "Dad, don't worry. Let's finish." The man stood behind Michelle and looked at Duanmu Tachio with a proud expression. I glanced at Yuexin out of the corner of my eye. Her face was as calm as ever. Michelle looked at Duanmu Tachio and said, "But nothing happened between us. Also, Duanmu K didn't take me into the room. I was forced to stay there." Hearing Michelle's words, the man's face turned green. He pulled Michelle and said, "What did you say? Don't talk nonsense." Michelle shook off the man's hand. "My company's director Lee asked me to do all this." He took advantage of the party to get Duanmu-K drunk and made me stay in his room. He threatened that if I didn't seduce Duanmu-K, he would hurt my family. I had no choice but to agree. But Duanmu-K didn't do anything to me. I swear everything I've said today is the truth. Michelle cried. The man was so angry that he pushed Michelle to the ground and wanted to kick her. Han Hao walked in front of the man and stopped him. 2 other people rushed in and helped Michelle up. Duanmu Tachio said to Han Hao, "How take this man to the side." Then he said to Michelle, "It's okay. You can continue." "I didn't want to come today, but that man forced me to come," Michelle said with tears streaming down her cheeks. "Then why didn't you say what he asked?" Duanmu-K walked to Duanmu Tachio's side and looked at Michelle. It seemed that this was a secret signal between the 2 of them. What they were going to say next should be what Duanmu-K told them beforehand. Michelle glanced at Duanmu-K and then said to Duanmu Tachio, "I just want a chance to live. I hope that if I tell the truth, the Kurosawa can help me." The crowd below the stage started talking again. "So there's a secret. This girl is so pitiful. Yeah, I wonder how boss will deal with this. It's not her fault. He probably won't make it hard for her." Duanmu Tachio looked at Michelle and said, "As long as you tell me everything you know, I can send people to protect you and your family." At this time, Xin Yao grabbed Duanmu Tachio's arm and said, "Dad, don't you think this is a bit strange? If it's just for the benefit of their company, they wouldn't need to make such a big fuss." Xin Yao looked at Duanmu Tachio with a smile. "Yes, as long as it's someone related to this matter, you have to tell them all." Duanmu Tachio was very smart and understood Xin Yao's meaning. I turned to look at Yu Xin, who was standing at the side of the stage. Her expression became very ugly. It seemed that she didn't realize that she was going to be checkmated. She didn't go up to explain anything. She just stood there with a serious expression and clenched fists. "It was our director Lee who told me to do this. He told me to come here today to frame Duanmu-K, and then use this as a bargaining chip to negotiate terms of cooperation with the Black Skeleton Group and expand his own benefits. Alright, cancel the cooperation with their company, take back all the funds and resources, and then arrange for the legal department to take them to court." Duanmu Tachio roared angrily. The audience instantly became silent. Chapter 63. Director Lee suddenly rushed in front of Michelle and said to Duanmu Tachio, "You can't do this. According to the contract, if you break the contract, you have to pay us compensation. You better think about it." Duanmu Tachio looked at him and said, "In my eyes, compensation is a small matter. As long as I take you to court, you will naturally go bankrupt." Director Lee looked at Duanmu Tachio with his mouth wide open. He stood there blankly without saying a word. Duanmu Tachio glared at him and then said to Han Hao, "How drive him out. Don't affect everyone's mood." With that, he prepared to leave the stage. Han Hao walked in front of Director Lee and blocked his way. "Director Lee, please." Director Lee wanted to rush onto the stage, but was stopped by Han Hao and a few others. He unwillingly said to Duanmu Tachio, "Let me go. I was forced to do this. Someone forced me to do this." Duanmu Tachio stopped and turned around to look at him. "What? Who forced you?" At this time, Yu Xin walked in front of Duanmu Tachio. "Uncle, the banquet in the banquet hall is ready. The Kurosawa executives have all been seated. They are just waiting for you and Auntie." Duanmu Tachio looked at Yu Xin and nodded. He didn't pay any more attention to Director Lee and turned around to walk into the banquet hall. After Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya left, Xinyao walked to Yu Xin and stopped. She looked at her and said, "You appeared at the right time. Aren't you afraid that people will guess that you are the mastermind behind this?" With that, she also walked into the banquet hall. Director Lee was still shouting himself hoarse outside. Han Hao brought a few people and dragged him outside. Yu Xin looked at him standing there like a clown, and a trace of disappointment appeared on her face. I walked to Uxin's side and looked at her. Let's talk. Uxin turned to look at me and nodded. I walked out of the banquet hall and went to the coffee shop near the banquet hall. She hesitated at the door but still followed me in. I deliberately chose the seat she and Director Lee had sat in at noon and sat down. She sat across from me and looked at me without saying a word. I won't beat around the bush. Today's scene was directed by you, right? I ordered 2 cups of coffee and said. Uxin smiled. Do you have any proof that I did it? I touched the sofa and said. Uxin, you're so smart. You should be able to guess that we all know about your and Director Lee's plans. Uxin was stunned for a moment. She looked at me and said. Actually, I don't know. Until just now, when I heard that woman didn't follow my instructions, I knew that my plan had failed. But you didn't really think that I would guess that you were the one who ruined my plan, did you? I looked at Uxin. Her eyes were filled with disdain. I smiled and said to her, no matter who it is, you've lost this time. Please don't do something like this again in the future and hurt everyone. I should have told you that you're not that cruel. Your weakness has been used by me time and time again, but you can't do anything to me. So what if I hurt others? I'm selfish. I only did it for myself. Besides, without any proof, do you think that Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengyao will easily believe you or Duanmu Xinyao? Uxin held her coffee and looked at me with a smile. If it was Duanmu K, Mom and Dad would definitely listen. My words seemed to have pierced Uxin's heart. She stopped what she was doing and stared at me without blinking. I looked at her and said, Duanmu K and I heard everything you said outside the house, including what you said when you met him here at noon. You're right, I'm not that smart. I didn't come up with the plan to sow discord. Duanmu K had already bribed Michelle the day after she spent the night with him. The reason why she continued to stay by Mr. Lee's side and followed your plan was to play out this show with you. Uxin put down her coffee. She lowered her head and said to me, is that really what happened? I leaned back on the sofa and said to Uxin, I don't want to fight with you, but you can't win against Duanmu K because your feelings for him have already clouded your cruel heart. So this is the last time I'm warning you. Don't do anything to hurt Duanmu K's family. You'll never get the result you want. Uxin smiled and said, if I wanted to give up, I would have done it a long time ago. But there's no other way. None of you can understand how I feel about him. She sighed and then said to me, do whatever you want. If you want to tell Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya, then just say it. I'm already prepared. It's nothing. I looked at Uxin and shook my head. I told you this is the last chance I'm giving you. I hope this kind of thing won't happen again. At that moment my phone rang. It was Duanmu K calling me. When I picked up, I heard him screaming at the top of his lungs. Wifey, where are you? Come save me. Xin Yao wants to kill me. Save me. Xin Yao has mutated. Black lines flashed across my face. As I listened to the ruckus on the other side, Xin Yao suddenly snatched Duanmu K's phone and said to me, Sister-in-law, where did you go? Come quickly. My brother is having a party at Shallow Bar. Come quickly. Let's work together to get him drunk. I said awkwardly. Okay, take it easy. I'll be right there. I put down the phone and glanced at Uxin. She was also looking at me. I said to her, I should go. Coffee is on me. I hope you remember what I said. It's Duanmu K, right? Uxin lowered her head and didn't look at me. I sighed and said, yes, he's having a party at Shallow Bar. He and Xin Yao are waiting for me. Have to go. Do whatever you want. I stood up and walked to the bar to pay for the meal. When I turned around, I saw Uxin standing behind me. I was startled. I patted my chest and looked at her. What are you doing? You scared me. Let's go together. Uxin smiled and looked at me. I looked at her suspiciously and asked, you want to go too? She crossed her arms and looked at me. There's no rule that says I can't go to Shallow Bar, right? Of course, I only said let's go together. You don't have a car, right? My car is parked across the street, so let's go together. Just to thank you for the coffee. She waved her car keys in front of me and walked towards the door. I looked at her figure. Although I didn't know what she was planning, I still decided to go with her. She probably wouldn't do anything to me. Chapter 64. On the way there, Yuexin and I didn't speak. It wasn't a long distance, but because of the awkward atmosphere, it felt especially long. Finally, we arrived at the shallow bar. When Yuexin and I entered the bar, we saw that the entire bar had been booked by the Kurosawa. In the booth facing the stage, I saw Duanmu-kei and Xinyao. There were also a few girls and boys with them. In the crowd I saw Han Hao. It seemed that today was a gathering of the Kurosawa's younger generation. I walked towards them, and Yuexin followed closely behind me. Xinyao saw me first. She ran in front of me and hugged me tightly. "Sister-in-law, you're here. Quick, my brother is almost done drinking." I looked at her with a helpless expression. "You got him drunk. I can't do anything to him." At this time, Duanmu-kei pushed through the crowd and saw me. He ran over and pulled Xinyao away. Then he hugged me tightly and said pitifully, "Wife, you're finally here. Wife, save me. My damned sister forced me to drink." Okay, let's not drink." I gently patted his back and helped him sit down. Then I poured a glass of water for him to drink. He leaned on my shoulder and closed his eyes. It seemed that he was really suffering. I raised my head and looked at Xinyao. "Girl, how much did you make him drink?" Xinyao whispered in my ear, 2 bottles of pure vodka." Hearing her laughter, I couldn't help but shiver. I gently touched Duanmu-kei's face. No matter how good a man is, there will always be a woman he can't handle. I guessed that Duanmu-kei had been controlled by his sister since he was young. Xinyao turned around and saw Yuexin standing off to the side. Her bright smile disappeared, and she glared at Yuexin. "What are you doing here?" Yuexin sat on the chair across from Xinyao. "No one said that I can't drink in this bar." She turned around and called the waiter over. In front of Xinyao, she ordered some drinks. "What a jinx. You really are a jinx. My good mood was ruined by you." Xinyao pursed her lips. Then she moved closer to my ear and asked, "Sister-in-law, what's going on?" I told Xinyao about my conversation with Yuexin, as well as what happened when I came here with her. Xinyao stood up and looked at Yuexin. She put her hands on her hips and said, "Okay, I'll give my sister-in-law some face today. You play your game, we play ours. We won't interfere with each other." Yuexin looked at her and sneered. Xinyao's temper flared up. She shouted at Yuexin, "What are you sneering at? If it weren't for my sister-in-law's face, I would have kicked you out. Do you think you can still be here?" The girls were afraid that Xinyao would get too worked up, so they tried to persuade her to sit down. Yuexin just looked at her quietly and didn't say a word. After Xinyao returned to her seat, she pulled a long face and didn't smile at all. Han Hao sat next to her and didn't say anything. Duanmu-kei leaned on my shoulder with his eyes closed. It seemed he wasn't in a good state. Xinyao picked up a bottle of wine and began to pour it into her mouth. I motioned to Han Hao to snatch it away. Han Hao snatched the bottle from Xinyao and didn't let her drink anymore. Xinyao leaned on his shoulder. The two of them didn't say anything. As I looked at the two of them, that indescribable feeling welled up in my heart. After a while, Duanmu-kei seemed to have recovered a bit. He leaned on the sofa and rubbed his sleepy eyes. When he saw me, he hugged me and said, "Wifey, you're here." His body reeked of alcohol, but I didn't want to let him go. I hugged him tightly and gently patted his back. "You drank too much. Don't do it again." Duanmu-kei hugged me tightly. "I know I was wrong, wifey. I was wrong. I won't do it again." At this time, Xinyao patted Duanmu-kei's shoulder. Duanmu-kei turned to look at her. Xinyao asked, "Gidge, are you feeling better? You bad sister. How can you make me drink like that? You made me drink a bottle of wine in just a few mouthfuls. You want to kill me, don't you?" Duanmu K pinched Xinyao's nose. Okay. I was wrong. Gidge, have you seen Han Hao? He was here a moment ago. I don't know where he went. Xinyao rubbed her eyes and looked at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K said, I didn't see him. I just woke up. Why don't we go look for him? We looked around. At this time, Xinyao pulled Duanmu K's hand and said seriously, No need. I saw him. Xinyao got up and walked to the center of the dance floor. Although there weren't many people, the dance floor was full. Everyone was twisting their bodies to the music. At the center of the crowd, a figure appeared. It was Han Hao. The person standing next to Han Hao was Yu Exin. I didn't know what they were talking about. They were twisting their bodies to the music and looking at each other. Obviously, Xinyao was angry. Duanmu K and I followed her to the dance floor. Xinyao walked in front of Han Hao and Yu Exin. She first looked at Han Hao, then at Yu Exin. She reached out and slapped Yu Exin's face. Han Hao pulled Xinyao and said, What are you doing? Xinyao turned around and looked at Han Hao. Are you yelling at me? Han Hao didn't say anything. He just pulled Xinyao's arm and didn't let her move. At this time, Yu Exin took out a bottle of wine from somewhere and threw it at Xinyao's face. Xinyao cried out. While wiping the wine off her face, she called out, Yusin. Duanmu K and I saw this scene. Duanmu K stood in front of Xinyao and snatched the wine glass from Yu Exin's hand. He threw it to the ground and glared at Yu Exin. I quickly walked in front of Xinyao and took a tissue to wipe the wine off her face and body. Let go of me. Xinyao broke free from Han Hao's arm and slapped Han Hao's face. Han Hao covered his face and looked at Xinyao without saying a word. Xinyao looked at him with tears in her eyes and said, Adulterous couple. Then she turned around and ran to the bathroom. Han Hao stood there with his head down and didn't say a word. I whispered a few words in Duanmu K's ear and pulled Han Hao towards the entrance of the bar. After we walked out of the door, I let go of Han Hao's hand. He stood in front of me, the right side of his face slightly red and swollen. I looked at him but didn't know what to say. You want to ask me why I was dancing with Yu Exin on the dance floor, right? Han Hao looked at me and said, If you want to say it, then say it. I don't want Yu Exin to be happy, and I don't want Xinyao to be wronged. I looked at him and said, Han Hao looked at me and pulled my hand. Then you want to make me sad. Chapter 65. I stared blankly at Han Hao and shook off his hand. Han Hao, let go of me. What do you mean by that? Han Hao looked at me and suddenly hugged me. Shaoli, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What's wrong with you? Let go of me first. Let's talk nicely. I struggled, but Han Hao didn't seem to have any intention of letting me go. Shaoli, can you let me hug you for a while? Just for a while. Han Hao suddenly choked with sobs. I stopped struggling and quietly leaned into Han Hao's embrace. I hadn't felt the warmth of his embrace for a long time. I didn't know why, but Han Hao's insecure embrace made me feel very uncomfortable. After a while, Han Hao let go of me. He wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes, which were extremely red. He looked at me and said, I'm sorry. I couldn't control my emotions. I sighed and said, What's going on? Why did you suddenly become like this? Han Hao said, Just now, Yu Exin sent me a message and asked me to pretend to dance with her on the dance floor. She said she had something important to talk to me about. She said it was about you. I didn't know what she wanted to talk about, but I still agreed. She told me that she hated you and Duanmu K being together, and that she would do everything in her power to break you two apart. Did she really tell you that? I looked at Han Hao. His eyes were filled with helplessness. Han Hao nodded. That's what she told me. When I heard her say that, I was very angry. I warned her not to do anything that would hurt you and Xiao Quebec. But she said that the more I cared about you, the more she would use me against you too. I was very scared. At that moment, Xinyao rushed over. Then why did you stop Xinyao? I looked at Han Hao and asked. Yuexin is a person who harbors evil intentions, and Xinyao's temper is so bad. If by any chance she gets angry and does something to harm Xinyao, how am I going to explain it to Duanmu Ke? How am I going to explain it to Uncle Duanmu and Auntie Duanmu? It seemed like Han Hao was doing this to protect Xinyao. Do you know Xinyao likes you? I didn't avoid the topic and directly asked Han Hao. Han Hao nodded and said, I know, but I can't accept her feelings for me. I grabbed Han Hao's shirt and asked, Why can't you accept it? Don't you know how much she likes you? Don't you know how sad she was when she saw you protect Yuexin? I didn't know why I was so emotional. I looked into his eyes, and my heart was beating very fast. Han Hao hugged me again and said, I can't accept her because I already have someone else in my heart. I knew that the person he was talking about was me. I didn't expect him to hug me. I struggled, but Han Hao hugged me even closer. I was angry, so I reached out and slapped Han Hao's face. I stared at him blankly. He laughed coldly and stood there, feeling the mark of my slap. Tears flowed down his face again. Seeing his tears fall, my heart softened. I reached out and touched his face. I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose. Understand. I know what I'm doing. I know that you and Duanmu Ke are together, but I still think about you. But I can't control my heart from thinking about you. I think about you all the time. Han Hao looked at me. His eyes filled with tenderness. My feelings were very complicated. I took back my hand from his face and lowered my head. Thank you. I know you're good to me and I understand your feelings for me. But I'm sorry. I can't accept your feelings. Right now, my heart only has Duanmu Quebec. Sorry. I understand. I know what you mean. Don't worry, I'll hide my feelings for you. I won't express them and I won't bother you anymore. Han Hao turned around and prepared to enter the bar. I grabbed Han Hao's clothes and said, Wait a minute. Han Hao stopped, but didn't turn around to look at me. Han Hao, I hope you can carefully consider Xinyao's feelings for you. She's a good girl. I hope you can seriously consider being together with her. Since I couldn't have him, I should hope for him to live a good life. Since Han Hao and I couldn't be together, I hoped Xinyao could stay by his side. I'll seriously consider it. After saying this, Han Hao walked into the bar. Looking at his back, I felt very sad. I only hoped that he could live a good life. I also walked into the bar. Duanmu Ke was still sitting in the booth with Xinyao sitting next to him. She looked unhappy. Duanmu Ke seemed to be comforting her. He was whispering something into her ear. I walked over to Duanmu Ke and patted him. How is it? I asked. Duanmu Ke pulled my hand. Not too good. Xinyao is really sad this time. She hasn't smiled even once. She's already drunk 5 or 6 bottles of wine. When I didn't let her drink, she threw things. I had no choice but to compromise. What do you think we should do? Was she this good at drinking before? I glanced at Xinyao and turned my head to ask. She was very good at drinking before. Once, Dad, Mom, and I took turns drinking with her. Dad drank white wine, Mom drank red wine, and I drank foreign wine. We all took turns drinking, but we still couldn't beat her. People who know her say that she won't get drunk even after 1,000 cups. But drinking too much is bad for the body. Seeing her like this as her brother, I feel very uncomfortable. Duanmu Ke shook his head helplessly. How about we let Han Hao talk to her? Han Hao came back. Did you see him? I looked at Duanmu Quebec. Didn't he come back with you? I haven't asked yet. What did you two talk about? You told me that you wanted to talk to him and then you pulled him away. What did you talk about? Duanmu Ke asked as he put his arm around my shoulder. I thought about how Han Hao had hugged me and confessed to me. My face burned. I looked at him and said, What could I say? I just advised him to have a good talk with Xinyao. Did you see him or not? Duanmu Ke looked around and then said, No, he didn't come here. Okay then. Decide. At this moment, Xinyao suddenly stood up. Her eyes were looking at the center of the stage. She walked towards the stage. Duanmu-ke reached out and grabbed her arm. "Girl, where are you going?" Xinyao didn't say anything. She shook off Duanmu-ke's arm and walked straight to the stage. She picked up the microphone on the stage and turned off the music. Standing on the stage, she said to the audience, "I am Duanmu Xinyao, the eldest daughter of the Duanmu family. I think it's been a long time since you've seen a killer battle. Now I will officially challenge someone." Chapter 66. Xinyao. "You can't do this. If Mom and Dad find out, they'll be angry." I stood up and shouted at Xinyao. Duanmu-ke pulled my arm and pulled me into his embrace. "Don't talk." Xinyao shook her head at me and pointed at a corner of the bar. I looked over and saw Yuexin sitting there. Xinyao looked at Yuexin and said, "Yuexin, come up here." Everyone looked at Yuexin. Yuexin furrowed her brows and turned to look at Duanmu Quebec. When she saw that Duanmu-ke was hugging me, her expression became even more serious. She turned around and walked towards the stage. She stood on the stage and looked at Xinyao. "Xinyao, I won't accept your challenge." Xinyao laughed and waved her hand. She called the MC to her side and said, "Come MC, tell her the rules of killer." The MC stood in the middle of the stage and looked at Yuexin. "Miss Yu, it seems that you still don't understand killer. Once a challenger is named, they have no right to refuse. Even if you really want to refuse, we will force it down your throat. So, Miss Yu, you should accept our Duanmu-ke's challenge." A group of people surrounded the stage. Everyone shouted in unison, "Accept! Accept! Accept!" Yuexin looked at Duanmu-ke and then looked at Xinyao. She laughed and said, "Okay, Duanmu Xinyao, I accept your challenge." The audience cheered. The stage was about to start the drinking competition. Duanmu-ke hugged me from behind. The two of us looked at the stage. Duanmu-ke whispered into my ear, "Waifu, do you remember the drinking competition we had?" I nodded and said, "How could I not remember? I don't like drinking, but in order to win against you, I desperately poured alcohol into my mouth. Now that I think about it, I was so childish back then. But it was also at that time that I gradually became attracted to you." Duanmu-ke kissed my cheek. Glib tongue. "Alright, why did you stop me from stopping Xinyao from drinking?" I turned around and looked at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu-ke pulled me into his arms and said, "My sister is good at everything, but she's too stubborn. Besides, she can drink so much. How could she be so easily drunk by Yuexin? Yuexin did so many wrong things. This time this is her punishment. That's not good. I don't want Xinyao to get hurt." I hugged Duanmu Quebec. My heart felt incomparably at ease. While we were talking, the drinking competition officially began. Xinyao was worthy of being called someone who could drink 1,000 cups without getting drunk. In a short period of time, she had already far surpassed Yuexin's progress. Yuexin drank with great difficulty. I knew how powerful killer was. Every time she drank a cup, it felt like a knife was cutting her throat. It was difficult to swallow. After half of the drinking, Yuexin was already lying on the table, forcing herself to raise the cup to her mouth. Xinyao, on the other hand, had already drunk more than half of her cup. She stood there and glared fiercely at Yuexin. In the end, the difference in strength was too great. Xinyao easily won the drinking competition. When Xinyao finished the last cup, she directly threw the cup to the floor. Then she walked in front of Yuexin and grabbed Yuexin's collar. She stared at her and said, "Yuexi, you bitch. You seduced my brother and even seduced Han Hao. How can you be so shameless? Who do you think you are?" Yuexin shook off Xinyao's hand. She suddenly lost her balance and fell to the floor. She forced herself to support herself and tried to move off the stage. "You want to leave? It's not that easy. You think I'll let you go so easily after you poured wine on my face?" Xinyao pulled Yuexin's feet and dragged her back to the center of the stage. Then she straddled Yuexin's body. She reached out and slapped Yuexin's face twice. At this time, Han Hao appeared out of nowhere. He rushed onto the stage, grabbed Xinyao and held her tightly in his arms. He shouted at her, "Xinyao, that's enough. Don't you think what you did was wrong?" Xinyao stopped struggling and turned around to look at Han Hao. "Han Hao, you care about her that much? What's so good about her that makes you protect her so much?" Han Hao sighed and said to Xinyao, "It's not like that. Xinyao, listen to me." "Enough. I don't want to hear it." Xinyao's tears flowed down. She looked at Han Hao and said, "Fine. If you want to protect her, then do as you please." Xinyao shook off Han Hao's hand and wiped away her tears. "Xinyao, I'm sorry. I really didn't mean it that way." Han Hao was afraid she would misunderstand, so he kept explaining. "Han Hao, if you like her, fine. I have no right to care who you like. I, Duanmu Xinyao, swear that I won't be reluctant to part with my feelings for you. From now on, you are you and I am me. I, Duanmu Xinyao, will never confess my feelings to you again." Xinyao reached out and threw all the wine glasses on the stage to the ground. She glared fiercely at Yuexin, and then at Han Hao. "I wish you both happiness." Then she walked off the stage without looking back. Duanmu K and I saw that the situation wasn't good, so we walked in the direction Xinyao left. Xinyao walked out of the bar, and the two of us followed closely behind her. We didn't say anything. Xinyao walked to a corner on the side of the road and suddenly stopped. Then she squatted down and burst into tears. I quickly ran to Xinyao's side. When Xinyao saw me, she threw herself into my arms and cried her heart out. I hugged her and she cried very hard. She hugged me tightly and said, "Sister-in-law, sister-in-law." I'm heartbroken. I didn't know how to comfort her, so I could only hug her tightly. Duanmu K also stood next to us. He stroked Xinyao's hair and said to Xinyao, "Girl, don't cry. Seeing you like this, big brother's heart hurts." Xinyao cried even harder. At this moment, Han Hao suddenly appeared behind us. He glanced at Xinyao, then said to Duanmu K, "Duanmu, can you let me talk to Xinyao?" Duanmu K suddenly walked in front of Han Hao and punched him. Han Hao's mouth bled a little. Han Hao looked at Duanmu K and lowered his head. He didn't say anything. Duanmu K grabbed Han Hao's collar and glared at him. "Han Hao, I consider you my best brother. Why did you hurt my little sister?" "I'm sorry, I didn't do it on purpose." Han Hao shook his head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K reached out and punched Han Hao again. Han Hao lost his balance and leaned against the wall. At this moment, Xinyao suddenly rushed in front of Han Hao and stood in front of him. She looked at Duanmu K and said, "Big brother, don't hit him." Duanmu K helplessly shook his head and looked at Xinyao. "Girl, I really don't know what to do with you." He reached out and wiped Xinyao's tears. "Don't cry. I won't hit him, okay?" he said dotingly. Chapter 67. Xinyao nodded to Duanmu K, then turned to Han Hao. She handed him a tissue and said, "What do you want to say?" "B." Han Hao looked at her and sighed. "Xinyao, I'm sorry. I want to explain things clearly to you." "There's nothing to explain. Since you've already said it clearly, there's no need to say it again." Xinyao wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes and looked at Han Hao. Han Hao suddenly said to Xinyao, "Xinyao, I really don't have anything to do with you, Xin. I just don't want you to do something that's beneath your status in front of so many people. Don't you know that you're the eldest daughter of the Duanmu family? So what if I'm the eldest daughter? I can't get the person I love. So what if I lose my status? Tell me." Xinyao's tears fell again. Han Hao looked at Xinyao and held her shoulder. "Xinyao, can you give me some time? There's someone in my heart that I can never forget. Can you give me some time to slowly let go and let me slowly accept your feelings for me?" Xinyao looked at him in surprise. "Han Hao, what did you say? Are you willing to accept me?" Han Hao nodded. "How could I not know your feelings for me? But I've always loved someone else in my heart. I can't accept you with a heart that loves someone else. This is unfair to everyone. Can you promise me? Give me some time. Xenyao's tears fell again, and she threw herself into Han Hao's embrace. Looking at them hugging each other, I had an indescribable feeling in my heart. At this time, Duan Mu Ke patted my shoulder, indicating that I shouldn't disturb them. He nodded. Duan Mu Ke held my hand as we walked on the road. He stayed by my side and didn't say a word. I looked at his side profile quietly. Just as I was lost in my thoughts, Duan Mu Ke suddenly turned his head. His eyes were filled with tenderness. He reached out and pulled me into his arms. He buried his head on my shoulder and didn't say a word. I hugged Duan Mu Ke and asked, "What's wrong?" Hugging me all of a sudden. Duan Mu Ke didn't let go of me. "I'm suddenly scared. I'm scared that you'll leave me." I smiled and hugged him tightly. "Silly, what are you thinking? How could I leave you?" Duan Mu Ke let go of me and looked at me. "The person Han Hao loves is you, isn't it?" My heart suddenly trembled and my eyes drifted. I didn't dare to look at him. "What are you talking about? How could that be?" Duan Mu Ke cupped my face. "But I can see that the person Han Hao loves is you, and you know how he feels about you." I sighed and said to Duan Mu Ke, "I know how he feels about me. Right now, I only have you in my heart. I've made it clear to him and he understands our relationship. But my heart doesn't feel good at all. One is my closest brother, and the other is the woman I love the most. This kind of entanglement makes me feel physically and mentally exhausted. You're thinking too much. I won't like Han Hao. Even if he likes me, I won't like him." I looked at Duan Mu Ke and said firmly, "Can you guarantee that you've never had any feelings for him?" Duan Mu Ke looked into my eyes. I didn't know how to answer his question. He continued, "You don't know how to answer. I'm not stupid. I can see that you have feelings for him. Then what do you mean by saying all this? I've already told you that it's impossible between him and me. What else do you want me to do?" I was already a bit agitated. I shook off Duan Mu Ke's hand and asked him. Duan Mu Ke suddenly pulled me into his embrace, stroked my head and said, "You are mine. I won't allow anyone to take you away from me. You're already starting to distrust me. Little K, I've already given my body and heart to you, but I didn't think that you would still be so worried about me. Forget it, I want to be alone for a while. You can go home by yourself." I pushed Duan Mu Ke away, ignored him and turned to walk away. "Shaoli, don't go." Duan Mu Ke caught up with me and grabbed my hand, not letting me go. I turned and looked at him. Shaking off his hand, I said, "Let's be quiet and think about what's going on between us and what we can do to fix it." I looked at him, then turned and walked away. Duan Mu Ke didn't chase after me. Maybe he needed to calm down and think about it. I calmed down and walked casually on the road. I didn't know where my destination was. There were people walking back and forth on the road. They were all talking and laughing. A young couple walked past me. I heard the girl say to the boy, "Honey, there's a new movie coming out tomorrow. Let's go and watch it together." The boy had a doting expression on his face. He stroked the girl's hair and smiled. "'Kay girl. Whatever you want. I knew you were the best. Then let's go eat something good. I know a new restaurant that opened. It's really good." The girl leaned on the boy's shoulder, her face full of happiness. "'Kay, as long as you're happy." The boy put his arm around the girl's shoulder and walked away. Seeing their happy faces, I realized that I had never had a proper date with Duan Mu Quebec. I had never seen a movie with him. It felt like there were a lot of things I hadn't done with him. I suddenly felt very sorry for him. I thought about how I had lost my temper with him, and how he had only said those things because he cared about me. I felt very uncomfortable. Maybe I had done something wrong. I thought about it and decided to take the initiative to admit my mistake. I picked up my phone and dialed Duan Mu Ke's number, but he didn't answer. I called him 2 more times, but he still didn't answer. Maybe he went home. I called a taxi and drove to Duan Mu Ke's house. When I arrived at Duan Mu Kei's house, I walked through the front door. There was no one in the front yard. It was very late. I walked into the living room. Duan Mu Tachio and Xiao Fengya weren't in the living room either. Only the housekeeper was cleaning the living room. When she saw me, she warmly greeted me. "Young madam, you're back." "Yeah, I'm back." "Is Xiao Kei back?" I asked. "Young Master Kei has been back for a while. He should be upstairs in his bedroom." "Okay, thank you." "Got it." I walked upstairs. I decided that if I saw Duan Mu Kei, I would hug him and apologize to him. When I reached the bedroom door, I straightened my clothes and took out the mirror I always carried with me. If I wasn't happy, Duan Mu Kei would be too. I gently pushed the door open and said loudly, "Hubby, I'm back." Chapter 68. The moment I opened the door, I saw a scene that I would never forget. I stood at the door dumbfounded. Looking at the scene in front of me, I felt as if the world had collapsed. Duan Mu Kei was indeed in the bedroom. He was lying quietly on the bed, his upper body naked. There were bottles of alcohol everywhere on the floor. It seemed he had been drinking. And in Duan Mu Kei's arms was another person. That person was none other than Yu Exin. Yu Exin was also lying in Duan Mu Kei's arms with her arms exposed. I stood at the door and didn't say anything. Looking at the scene in front of me, I didn't know what to do. I took a step back and wanted to leave the room, but I accidentally bumped into a bottle on the floor. The sound of the bottle falling woke Duan Mu Kei up. Duan Mu Kei rubbed his eyes. His sleepy eyes saw me standing at the door. He hurriedly got off the bed and rushed to my side. He hugged me and said, "Wifey, you're back." "Wifey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have wronged you. Sorry. Don't be mad at me, okay?" I didn't say anything. I just stood there and stared at Yu Exin, who was still lying on the bed. Duan Mu Kei saw that I didn't respond. He looked at me and said, "Wifey, what's wrong? Are you still mad at me? Don't be mad." Tears fell from my eyes. Then I moved his hand away from me. I didn't say anything and turned to leave. Duan Mu Kei saw that I was about to leave. He hugged me tightly from behind and said, "Wifey, I know I was wrong. Don't ignore me, okay? Sorry. I know I was wrong." At this time, Xinyao came back with Han Hao. Xinyao smiled and ran towards me. "Sister-in-law, we're back." Han Hao and I made up sister-in-law. Seeing Xinyao, my tears couldn't stop flowing. I lay in her arms and cried even harder. Xinyao hugged me and said, "Sister-in-law, what's wrong? Don't cry." She saw Duan Mu Kei and shouted, "Aya, brother, why aren't you dressed?" Duan Mu Kei looked down at himself and said shyly, "I'll go put it on now." Duan Mu Kei turned around and saw Yu Exin lying on the bed awake. He was shocked and stepped back a few steps. He pointed at Yu Exin and said, "You, why are you in my bed?" Yu Exin sat up on the bed and covered her chest with the blanket. She calmly flipped her hair and looked at us without saying a word. Xinyao moved closer to Duan Mu Kei and saw the naked Yu Exin. She was stunned. "Yu Exin," she shouted, "you slut, get the hell out here." After saying that, he reached out to beat Yu Exin. Han Hao hugged Xinyao from behind and said, "Girl, don't get too excited. You still don't understand the situation. It won't be too late to make a decision after you figure it out." With a cold laugh, I looked at Duan Mu Kei and said, "What else is there to be unclear about? Isn't it obvious? My man slept with another woman in our bridal chamber." Hee. My tears flowed down again. Duan Mu Kei pressed my shoulder and said, "It's not like that. Wife, don't think too much." After we finished arguing, I was very upset. So I went home to drink. Later, I didn't have enough wine, so I asked the nanny to bring me a few bottles. After that, I don't remember anything. I looked at Duan Mu Kei and said, "Do you think I still believe you?" I shook off Duan Mu Kei's hand and walked downstairs. At this moment, I felt as if the whole world had turned black. I sat on the sofa in the living room, numb. I couldn't feel anything at all. After a while, Xinyao ran downstairs and sat next to me. She wanted to say something, but she was hesitant and didn't know what to say. I looked at her and said, "I'm fine. I'm fine." Xinyao couldn't hold it in any longer. She said to me, "Sister-in-law, don't hold it in anymore. I know you feel wronged. Don't hold it in. If you want to cry, just cry." Xinyao hugged me, and I lay in her embrace, tears flowing uncontrollably. Xinyao stroked my hair and sighed. I didn't think she would use such a method. If your brother didn't give her a chance, she wouldn't have climbed into his bed so easily. Sister-in-law, don't think about it. My heart aches for you. That bad brother of mine is too bad. Xinyao hugged me tightly, giving me a little bit of warmth. After a while, Han Hao brought Yuexin downstairs. Duanmu Ke followed behind. Yuexin sat across from me. Duanmu Ke wanted to sit next to me, but I refused. Helpless, he could only sit next to Yuexin. We sat like that in silence, no one saying a word. After a while, I raised my head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. He had his head lowered and didn't look at me. Yuexin looked at me calmly, as if she was showing off to me that she had obtained Duanmu Quebec. I calmed down and said, "Xinyao, help me pack my luggage and then take me home." Xinyao looked puzzled. "Go home?" she asked. "Isn't this your home?" "My own home." I looked at Duanmu Quebec. He raised his head and looked at me. He didn't say anything. "Sister-in-law, you should think about it carefully. Don't make a decision so easily." Xinyao hugged my arm. I understood that she was giving us some leeway. Han Hao looked at Xinyao. "Listen to her. We'll take her home later." Duanmu Ke suddenly stood up. He looked at me and said, "This is a misunderstanding. We can't confirm what happened. Can't you give me a chance to explain?" I looked at him and said calmly, "What's there to explain? Two people hugging each other naked. Would you believe me if I said nothing happened?" Duanmu Ke blushed. He turned to Yuexin and said, "Yuexin, tell them that nothing happened between us." Yuexin looked at Duanmu Ke and then at me. "It's okay. I don't need him to take responsibility." "What? Obviously nothing happened. Why would you say that?" Duanmu Ke tightly gripped Yuexin's shoulder. "Duanmu, Gij, I was the one who delivered the wine for you. As soon as I put the wine down, you suddenly hugged me and said how much you loved me. Then you kissed me and then..." Yuexin lowered her head. I sneered. I looked up and didn't say anything else. I tried not to let my tears fall. Xinyao couldn't control her emotions. She stood up and pointed at Yuexin. "You bitch. I didn't expect you to hook up with a man in bed. Do you really think you're a good person?" I pulled Xinyao's arm and said, "Forget it. It's already like this. What else is there to say?" Duanmu Ke turned to look at me. "What about you? When you hugged Han Hao, did you consider my feelings? What am I?" Chapter 69. Xinyao looked at Duanmu Ke with wide eyes and said, "Bro? What did you say?" Suddenly, Han Hao stood in front of me. He looked at Duanmu Ke and said, "Xiao Ke, why did you say that? Don't you know you'll hurt her heart? You care about her that much. You said nothing happened between the two of you. Who would believe that?" Duanmu Ke stared at Han Hao and roared. Xinyao pulled Han Hao and asked, "Brother Han Hao, what's going on?" Han Hao looked at Xinyao, then looked at Duanmu Ke and said, "In front of Xinyao, I'm not afraid to say it. You're right, I do like Xiao Li. From the first time I saw her, I fell in love with her. But what about Xiao Li? In order to be with you, she rejected me more than once. She's such a good woman, why do you want to hurt her? Why do you want to wrong her?" Xinyao lowered her head, tears streaming down her face. Duanmu Ke sneered and said, "Han Hao, you'd better see clearly that the person you love is my woman. You Han Hao was about to open his mouth, but Exenyao pulled him back. Exenyao stood up and looked at Duanmu. Quebec brother, I know. I guess that Han Hao likes sister-in-law. The way Han Hao looks at her is completely different from the way he looks at me. When I found out about this, my heart was very uncomfortable. I like sister-in-law, I like Han Hao, and I also like brother. Duanmu looked at Exenyao and roared. Don't tell me you're also questioning me? Brother, that's not what I meant. Exenyao was scared and hid behind Han Hao. I looked at Duanmu and said, let's just leave it at that. The two of us need to think about what to do in the future. I turned to Exenyao and said, Exenyao, let's go. I turned to walk towards the door. Suddenly, Duanmu rushed forward and grabbed my hand. He pulled me into his arms and carried me up. I clung onto him tightly and struggled as I said, what are you doing? Let go of me. Duanmu carried me upstairs. When he passed by Han Hao and Exenyao, he glanced at them and said, no matter what you hear, don't go upstairs. Then Duanmu carried me upstairs. Duanmu, let go of me. I was still struggling. I looked at Exenyao, and Exenyao shook her head at me, indicating that I shouldn't struggle. Indeed, I couldn't struggle. Duanmu was holding me tightly. How could I break free? Duanmu carried me back to the bedroom. After we entered the room, Duanmu closed the door and threw me onto the bed. I struggled to sit up. I looked at him and roared. Duanmu, what the hell do you want? Duanmu stood by the bed and pushed me down. He looked at me as he took off his clothes. I looked at him in fear. Clutching my chest, I asked, Duanmu, calm down. What do you want? After taking off his clothes, Duanmu climbed onto the bed and lay on top of me. I couldn't move. I pushed his shoulders and roared, Duanmu, let go of me. Don't touch me. Duanmu was on top of me, tearing off my clothes piece by piece. He stared at me and said, don't touch you. Do you want to wait for someone to touch you? My upper body was completely exposed in front of him. Hearing him say that, I was very angry. I couldn't control myself and slapped him. After I slapped him, I was shocked. Duanmu suddenly stopped. He looked at me. I didn't dare to look at him and turned my face to the side. He put his hand under my skirt. I quickly grabbed his hand to stop him from moving. Duanmu grabbed my hand and pressed me under his body. He looked into my eyes and said, you are mine. Duanmu kissed me deeply on the lips. He suddenly became gentle and touched me gently, from my face to my upper body. Then he put his hand under my skirt again. This time I didn't struggle. He gently took off all the coverings on my body. I was completely naked in front of him. He spread my legs and tangled with me tenderly. After a while, I lay on the bed with my back facing Duanmu, Quebec. He leaned against the headboard and didn't say anything. I didn't want to know what he was thinking, and I didn't want to talk to him. After lying down for a while, I struggled to sit up, but Duanmu pressed me down on the bed. Lie down, he roared. I turned around and looked at Duanmu, Quebec. What do you want? Duanmu took advantage of the situation and pulled me into his arms. Nothing. There's nothing that can't be solved with sex. I looked at Duanmu with a face full of black lines. I was actually speechless with his logic. However, as I listened to Duanmu heartbeat, my mood gradually calmed down. However, when I thought of the image of him and Yusin lying together, my heart still felt very uncomfortable. I used all my strength to pinch his back. Ouch! It hurts. Duanmu grimaced as he cried out. I glared at him and said, no matter how painful it is, it's not as painful as mine. I pinched his back hard again. I was wrong. I was wrong. Don't pinch me, Duanmu said with a helpless face. I struggled to get up. Looking at the clothes that had been torn by Duanmu, I shook my head helplessly. I opened the wardrobe and took out a set of clothes to change into. Duanmu lay on the bed and looked at me. Where are you going? I turned my head and looked at him. You have a big heart, but I don't. I want to talk to you, Exen. What do you two have to talk about? Don't talk. Duan-mu-ke suddenly jumped off the bed and hugged me tightly from behind. Are you that afraid that I will confront her? I began to suspect that something had really happened between Duan-mu-ke and Yu Exin. Otherwise, why would he be so against me going to Yu Exin? Duan-mu-ke didn't let go of me. He said to me, "Don't go to her, okay? I don't want you to go to her." But why? Why don't you let me go to her? There has to be a reason. There's no reason. I just don't want you to go. Duan-mu-ke's tone clearly became stiff. I shook off Duan-mu-ke's hand and looked at him. If you didn't have something to do, you wouldn't be so against me going to her. Duan-mu-ke put his hands on his waist and said angrily, "Do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. I can't control you." I glared at him, opened the door and walked out of the room. I stood on the stairs and saw that Xinyao and Han Hao were no longer in the living room. Yu Exin was still sitting in the living room, pouring red wine into a glass. I stood on the stairs and called out to her. "Yu Exin." She looked up at me and said, "Come down and sit." Chapter 70. I walked in front of Yu Exin and sat on the sofa across from her. She picked up a wine glass and poured me some wine. She looked at me and said, "Drink a bit." I didn't refuse and took the wine glass she handed me. Yu Exin sat upright on the sofa, raised the glass, and drank it in one gulp. After drinking, she looked at me and said, "What do you want to ask?" "Ask away." "I don't have anything to ask you. Aren't the facts in front of you?" I held the wine glass and looked at Yu Exin. Yu Exin smiled and said, "It seems like you're quite sensible. It's good that you understand. How is it? How's Xiao Kei's martial arts?" I raised my eyebrows and looked at Yu Exin. Yu Exin was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "Very good. Not bad." "That's strange. How did you make a drunk person have sex with you? What's so hard about that?" "He mistook me for you, so it happened naturally." Yu Exin arrogantly raised her head and looked at me. I looked at her and said, "So you admit that you seduced Xiao Kei?" Yu Exin was stunned and said, "You're wrong. It was Duan-mu-gij who took the initiative to have sex with me. How could I seduce him?" I put down the wine glass and looked at Yu Exin. "I suddenly feel that you're very pitiful. The person Xiao Kei loves is me, so he's not satisfied with me. But you're doing everything you can to climb into his bed." Yu Exin looked at me and said, "So what? I'm satisfied as long as I can sleep with him. What do you plan to do in the future?" "Me? What can I do? I'll just pretend that nothing happened. Aren't you still his wife?" Yu Exin looked at me and said with a smile. It was obvious that she was trying to force me to leave Duanmu, Quebec. I stood up and looked at Yu Exin. "This is your ultimate goal, isn't it? You want to drive me away and become his woman, right?" "That's right. I'm already close to success. I won't give you another chance to turn things around. Pity you, cold glaze. In the end, you're still no match for me." Yu Exin's smile was especially brilliant. "Time will tell." I turned and went upstairs. At that moment, Xinyao poked her head out of the room. When she saw me coming up the stairs, she looked at me and said, sister-in-law, come quickly. Sister-in-law, come quickly." I saw Xinyao call me, so I walked over to her. Xinyao grabbed my arm and pulled me into her bedroom. When I entered the room, I saw that Han Hao was also there. After Xinyao pulled me in, she held my arm and said, "Sister-in-law, did brother quarrel with you just now? I heard a lot of noise in your room." Blushed. I patted her head and said, "Little girl, don't ask questions." Xinyao winked mischievously. She looked at me with a smile and said, "Okay, let's stop. Sister-in-law, I saw you go downstairs and talk with Yu Exin. What did you talk about?" I sighed and said, "We didn't talk about anything. She didn't say whether she and Duan-mu-ke had a relationship or not." She only told me that her ultimate goal was to drive me away and become his woman. She's really shameless. Xinyao became unhappy again. I looked at her and then at Han Hao and said, "Oh right. Xinyao, I have to apologize to you. Sorry. I know that the person Han Hao likes is me. Actually, when I found out that you had feelings for Han Hao, I felt very uncomfortable. I'm sorry, Xinyao." Xinyao suddenly hugged me and said, "Sister-in-law, Han Hao told me all of this when we talked alone the other day. Although I don't feel good about it, I really envy sister-in-law because sister-in-law can obtain Han Hao's heart. Of course, I also like sister-in-law because I know what kind of person sister-in-law is. Sister-in-law wouldn't do anything to hurt me, right?" I tightly hugged Xinyao and said, "Silly girl, I've wronged you. Sorry. Sister-in-law will be good to you." I let go of Xinyao and turned to look at Han Hao. I said, "Han Hao, I'll leave Xinyao to you in the future. Xinyao's personality is still like a little girl, so I'll leave it to you. I don't want Xinyao to be wronged." Han Hao nodded and said, "Okay, I promise you. I'll take good care of her." "Alright, sister-in-law, what do we plan to do next? How are we going to deal with UXN?" Xinyao looked at me and asked. I sighed and said, "I don't know, but I feel like Duanmu K's temper is getting worse and worse. Although it's possible that UXIN seduced Duanmu K, it's also possible that nothing happened between the two of them. However, I don't suspect that it was Duanmu K who initiated it." Xinyao shook her head and said, "Sister-in-law, don't worry about this. My brother is definitely not like this. You have to believe me, I can guarantee you this. I really don't know about this, but Duanmu K has been acting a bit strange recently. I don't know why he became like this. I just said a few words to him and his temper flared up. Then we quarreled." He sighed. "What? You two just quarreled?" Xinyao looked at me and rubbed my head. I shook my head and said, "It's nothing, it's just a few words. It's all in the past. Don't wrong yourself. If you can't handle it, just call me. I'll beat him up." Xinyao looked at me and said. I smiled and said, "Silly girl, you don't have to worry about UXN. We'll play it by ear. As for your brother, if you have time, you have to sound him out and see what he's thinking. I'm afraid his feelings for me have already faded." At this moment, the door was pushed open. Duanmu K stood at the door and looked at us. "Faded. Very, very faded." I looked at Duanmu K in surprise and said, "Why are you here? You were eavesdropping on our conversation. You're the stupid one talking so loudly." Duanmu K walked over to me and knocked my head. Then he walked over to Han Hao and looked at Han Hao. "Sorry bro, I misunderstood you." Han Hao was stunned. Then he looked at Duanmu K and said, "You're too polite. We don't need to be so formal. We're all brothers." Wow, bro actually took the initiative to admit his mistake. That's not like you. Xinyao looked at Duanmu K with an evil smile and teased him. Duanmu K's face suddenly became very red. He didn't dare to look at us directly. He looked at the ceiling and said, Did I? Let's not talk about this. When I came out, I didn't see UXN. She probably went back to her room. Why are you here?" I rolled my eyes at Duanmu Quebec. Duanmu K suddenly pulled me into his embrace and softly whispered into my ear, "My wife is missing. I'm here to look for my wife. I want to admit my mistake to my wife. Admit that I was wrong." After saying that, he kissed me on the cheek. Chapter 71. I pushed Duanmu K away and glared at him. "Who wants to forgive you? Go, keep acting like a young master." Duanmu K stood there looking at me innocently. "I don't have a young master's temper. My temper is so good. You're bullying me. I'm going to complain to Father Lang." I fiercely stepped on Duanmu K's foot and pulled him towards the door. "Hurry up and leave with me. Don't disturb the two of them." Hearing my words, Duanmu K turned around and looked at Han Hao and Xinyao. "Han Hao, treat my little sister better. Otherwise I won't be polite to you." I'm going to break up with you. I forcefully pulled Duan and threw him out of the door. Then I turned around and said to Han Hao and Xin Yao, "You two ignore him. I'll take care of him. You two have fun." I casually closed the door to Xin Yao's bedroom. I pulled Duan back into the bedroom. After he entered the room, he lay on the bed and looked at the ceiling as if he was thinking about something. I didn't pay attention to him. I changed into my pajamas and lay down. I didn't say anything with my back to him. Thinking about the day's events, my heart didn't feel very comfortable. As I gradually entered the dreamland, I suddenly felt someone hug me from behind. I quickly opened my eyes and turned my head. Duan had an expression of enjoyment on his face. His eyes were closed as he hugged me. His two hands were constantly touching me. I hit his hand in disgust. Duan hugged me even tighter. His mouth was close to my ear as he whispered, "Hugging you is the most comfortable feeling." No matter how I heard it, I felt that this sentence was strange. I struggled with all my strength and pinched his arm. "You still touched Yuexin, didn't you?" Duan hugged me tightly and said, "I'm just teasing you. How could I have touched her? Don't think too much." "Then why did you say that?" I struggled to push him away. Unexpectedly, I used too much strength and Duan fell off the bed. I didn't expect to be able to push him off the bed. I quickly got off the bed and ran to him to help him up. "Why are you pushing me? Don't touch me." Duan was a little annoyed. He forcefully shook off my arm that I had extended to support him. He lost his balance and I took 2 steps back. "I didn't mean to. I didn't think I could push you off the bed." I didn't dare go forward. I just stood there looking at him. Duan stood up and straightened his clothes. He looked at me with a serious face. "I told you I was just teasing you. You still don't believe me. I can't argue with you, I can't coax you, I can't make you happy. What do you want? Why do you keep asking me what I want? What's wrong with me? You didn't do it." I was stunned by Duan series of questions. For a moment, I didn't know how to answer. I just stood there and looked at him blankly. "Sorry. I really didn't mean to." Duan looked at me and said impatiently, "Forget it." He turned around and opened the wardrobe. He found a jacket and walked to the door. I looked at him and asked, "Where are you going? It's so late." "Don't worry about it. I'm going out alone. You go to sleep." Duan opened the door and walked out of the room. The moment he walked out of the room, my tears flowed down. Did I really do something wrong? But I really cared about him. I believed that nothing would happen between Duan and Yuexin. Why couldn't I forgive him? I sat on the floor and cried on the bed. That night I washed my face with tears. I couldn't sleep at all. I thought about everything that had happened between Duan and me. I was sure that I really loved him and I didn't want to lose him. But in the past 2 days we quarreled more and more. No matter what, it was my fault. I decided that as soon as the sun rose, I would go find him and apologize to him face to face. As soon as the sun rose, I packed up and prepared to go out. Duan Tachio had a habit of waking up early to exercise, so I had to leave the house before he did. That way I wouldn't be suspected. I walked down the stairs quietly. I guessed that the people in the house hadn't woken up yet. I walked around the living room and went out the door. As I walked through the garden, I inadvertently saw a figure lying on a rattan chair by the rose pond. Was it Duan It turned out that he hadn't left the house. I slowly walked to the rattan chair. It was really Duan Quebec. He was lying on the rattan chair, sleeping. His coat was covering him, and he was curled up into a ball. It seemed that he had slept here for the whole night. I didn't want to think too much. I quietly walked toward him, afraid that I would wake him up. Just as I reached the tree in front of the rose pond, I suddenly saw another figure take out a towel and cover Duan with it. That figure looked very familiar. As I carefully thought about who it was, she lowered her head and gently kissed Duan forehead. I finally saw her face clearly. It was none other than Yuexin. My heart broke. I held back my tears and continued to observe them. After Yuexin covered Duanmu K with a blanket, she gently caressed his face. Then she sat next to him and quietly looked at him. She was very entranced, and her eyes were full of love. At this moment Duanmu K woke up. He opened his eyes and saw Yuexin sitting next to him. He immediately sat up from the rattan chair and looked at Yuexin. "Why are you here?" "Oh, I came out early. I saw someone here so I came over. I didn't expect it to be you." Duanmu K rubbed his eyes and looked at the towel on his body. He asked Yuexin, "This is yours?" Yuexin nodded and smiled. "I saw that you were curled up in a ball. I guessed that you were cold, so I went back to my room and took a blanket to cover you." Duanmu K took the towel off his body and handed it to Yuexin. "Thank you." "You're welcome. Anyway, how did you end up sleeping here?" Yuexin tilted her head and looked at Duanmu Quebec. "Oh, it's nothing." Duanmu K looked at his watch and then said to Yuexin, "It's still early. I'll go back first." Duanmu K stood up and prepared to leave. Yuexin looked at Duanmu K's back and said, "Brother Duanmu, your face is a bit hot. Go back and take some medicine." Duanmu K stopped in his tracks and looked at Yuexin. "Okay, I know." Then he left. Yuexin stood there and looked at Duanmu K's back, a happy smile on her face. I turned and walked toward the living room. I couldn't control the tears in my eyes. As his wife, I couldn't even compare to a mistress. Duanmu K's attitude toward me and toward Yuexin had completely changed. How was I supposed to face Duanmu K in the future? How was I supposed to face everyone around me? Chapter 72. I don't know how I got into the living room. As soon as I entered, I bumped into Duanmu Tachio, who was about to go out for his morning exercise. "Dad, good morning. Are you going out for your morning exercise?" "Oh, it's Shaoli. Yes, I'm going out for my morning exercise." "What happened to your eyes?" Duanmu Tachio asked me. "Oh, I'm fine. Dad, I'm going to prepare breakfast." I turned around and walked towards the kitchen. I prepared a sumptuous breakfast in the kitchen. One by one, everyone came to the dining table. I sat in my seat and ate my breakfast absent-mindedly. Duanmu K came downstairs and sat next to me in the dining room. He looked at me but didn't say a word. Everyone at the table quietly ate their breakfast. After a while, Duanmu K said to me, "Why weren't you in your room this morning?" I didn't stop what I was doing, and I didn't look at him. I quietly said to him, "You weren't in your room either, were you? You weren't in your room when I wasn't." Duanmu K tilted his head and looked at me. At this time Xiao Fengya looked at us and said, "K, what are you guys talking about?" I put down my bowl and chopsticks and said to Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya, "Dad, Mom, I'm done eating. I'm going upstairs." Then I turned around and walked upstairs without looking back. When I entered the bedroom, I opened the wardrobe and took out my suitcase. I started to pack my clothes. When I was almost done, the door was suddenly pushed open. Duanmu K walked in. He saw me packing and rushed in front of me. He looked at me and said, "Why are you packing?" I didn't say anything and just quietly packed my suitcase. Duanmu K saw that I didn't answer him. He reached out and grabbed my wrist. He looked at me and said, "I asked you a question. Why are you packing?" I shook off his hand and glanced at him without saying a word. The Duanmu K was really angry. He grabbed my suitcase and threw it on the ground. The clothes in the suitcase were scattered all over the place. I stood there and looked at the clothes on the ground. I couldn't help but cry again. I squatted down and picked up the clothes one by one. The Duanmu K seemed to see me crying. He squatted down and looked at me. "What happened? Why don't you say something? Don't hold it in, okay?" Holding back my tears, I looked at Duanmu K and said, "I'm going home for a few days. I think the two of us should think about it quietly." What's there to think about? It's all in the past. It's all in the past. Let's not think about it, okay? Duan Muke held my shoulder. It was clear that he didn't plan on letting me leave. I stood up and looked at him. Let's think about it, I said. My presence here is unnecessary. You'd rather sleep on the rattan chair and let other people take advantage of you than sleep next to me. What's the point of me staying here? I put my clothes into my suitcase and began to tidy up the dressing table. Are you talking about Uxian? Uxian just gave me a blanket. She probably saw that I was too cold, so she covered you with it. That's not a big deal. Duan Muke seemed to understand that it was because Uxian covered him with a blanket that made me unhappy. I packed up the things on the dressing table and put them into the suitcase. Then I looked at Duan Muke and said, "Does covering you with a blanket require a kiss on the face?" Duan Muke looked at me with a surprised expression. What? A kiss on the face? I don't know. I wiped the tears from my face and said to Duan Muke, "Let's calm down and think about it. You can contact me when you understand." Duan Muke angrily reached out and threw all the things on the dressing table to the ground. He shouted at me with a hoarse voice. "Cold glaze, what do you want? You always misunderstand Uxian and me. What's wrong with Uxian and me? Did something really happen? Or is there something else? Why do you have to say and do this?" I pulled the suitcase and walked towards the door. When I opened the door, I bumped into Uxian, who had just walked up the stairs. We looked at each other. Uxian looked at my suitcase and smiled at me. "Want to go on a trip? Congratulations, your plan has succeeded. Are you happy? I wish you happiness." I pulled the suitcase and walked down the stairs. By the time I finished speaking, my face was covered in tears. However, I couldn't let Uxian laugh at me in front of her. I could only let it all out when I left. Duan Muke stood at the top of the stairs and shouted at me, "Cold glaze, go. Don't come back. I won't look for you. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong to you." I lowered my head and didn't say anything. I bumped into Xiao Fengya, who was walking towards me. Xiao Fengya stopped me and held my face. "Hey Lier, what's wrong? Why are you crying? Tell me what's going on. Did Kair bully you?" I tried hard not to laugh. "Mom, I'm fine. I'm going home for 2 days. I'm leaving." After saying goodbye to Xiao Fengya, I walked out of Duanmu's house. I called a taxi and left Duanmu's house. I didn't know how long I had been driving, but I finally arrived at my house. I got out of the car and opened the door. My parents were chatting in the living room. I pulled my suitcase into the living room. They looked up and were surprised to see me. I didn't say anything. My father looked at me and asked, "Why did you come back?" I lowered my head and didn't dare to look at him. "I came home for a few days," I said softly. "Did you make parents-in-law unhappy? Did you get kicked out?" My father put down the newspaper he was reading and looked at me. I shook my head. I still didn't dare to look at him. My mother saw our awkward conversation and walked over to me. She took my hand and said, "Come back for a few days. Mom will ask Auntie to help you tidy up. You can stay downstairs with your father for a while." I pursed my lips and looked at my mother. "No, Mum. I'll tidy up myself. I want to be alone." "Lier, what happened? Why do I feel that you're not happy? Did you get sick? Do you want me to take you to see a doctor?" My mother stroked my hair and looked at me with a worried expression. "Mom, I'm fine. I just want to be alone. Give me a moment. I'll come down and talk to you and Dad." "All right. Have a good rest. Call me if you need anything." I hugged my mother and carried my suitcase upstairs. I heard my mother say to my father, "Dad, what happened to Lier? Did she get bullied? I'm so worried. She's never like this. What should I do?" My father replied, "You give Duanmu's family a call, ask what happened in the end. Don't say too much, just find out from the side. If you really can't do it, make an appointment with Xiao Fengya." Chapter 73. I ignored my parents' suspicions and carried my luggage upstairs to my bedroom. After entering the room, I lay on the bed and thought about what had happened in the past 2 days. My tears couldn't stop flowing. I glanced at my phone. There was no call from Douanemou, Quebec. There wasn't even a message. It seemed he didn't miss me. It seemed my departure didn't mean anything to him. Thinking of this, my tears couldn't stop flowing. I didn't know how many times I had cried these past few days. My whole body was very dispirited, and I didn't have a good rest. I decided to take a bath and have a good rest. I forced myself to take a shower and lay down on the bed. I hadn't slept a wink all night, and I was exhausted. I decided to ignore everything else and sleep peacefully. The sun shone through the glass window into the room, the bedroom was warm. I gradually felt sleepy, gently closed my eyes. Just as I was about to fall asleep, my mobile phone suddenly rang. I opened my eyes and picked up the phone to look. It turned out to be Xinyao calling me. I lazily pressed the answer button. Hello. Hello, Xinyao. Sister-in-law, where did you go? Xinyao asked me with a crying voice. Oh, I went home for a few days. Why are you crying? This little girl knew how to care about me. Xinyao then said to me, Sister-in-law, can you come back? I miss you so much. Hearing Xinyao say that, I laughed out loud. I smiled and said to her, Silly girl, I only left you for a day. How could you miss me so quickly? I don't care. Sister-in-law, can you come back quickly? I miss you so much. Dad and Mom miss you so much. Brother also misses you. I was stunned and said to Xinyao, him? He can't miss me. Okay, don't worry about it. I'll think about it in 2 days. I'll come back. Xinyao reluctantly hung up the phone. I sighed and closed my eyes. It was better to sleep. Not even 10 minutes after I closed my eyes, my phone rang and woke me up. I helplessly opened my eyes and took out my phone. It was a call from Han Hao. Had some doubts. Why did these people take turns to call me? Feeling helpless, I answered Han Hao's call. Hey Han Hao, why are you calling me too? You understand. Han Hao's 3 simple words contained a lot of information. I shook my head helplessly and said, All right, what is it? Nothing much. I just wanted to ask where you are. I'm at my house. I've been back for a few days. What happened? I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. The person I wanted to have a relationship with the most couldn't compare to the friend beside me. How ironic was that? Oh, it's nothing. Are you okay? You've been acting weird these days. Oh, I'm fine. As long as you guys are fine. I'll be back in a few days. I miss Mom and Dad. I made up a random excuse. Okay. You'll definitely come back, right? I laughed. When have I not kept my words? Alright, I need to trouble you with something. What is it? Just now, Xinyao called me and said she misses me. Help me tell her and let her tell Dad and Mom that I'll be home for 2 days and then I'll go back. Please. Why are you being so polite with me? Got it. I'll tell her later. Have a good rest. Bye. Han Hao hung up the phone. Listening to the sound of the phone being hung up, my heart felt a little sad. I had asked myself more than once, was it really my fault for throwing a tantrum with Douanemou K? But how should I face him? When I thought of Xian's adoring expression and the image of them hugging each other in bed, my mind was in a mess. I couldn't sleep because of the 2 phone calls. I sat up on the bed and looked out the window. My heart couldn't calm down for a long time. After tossing and turning in the room for a while, I really didn't know what to do. I picked up my phone and prepared to go to the garden. When I walked out of the room and went downstairs, I saw Mom coming out of the study. She saw me and walked towards me. Lier, did you sleep well? Mom gently stroked my hair. I shook my head. No, I couldn't sleep at all. Mom smiled and said, Silly child, why don't you rest a bit? Do you want to eat something? Mom will make it for you. I smiled and said to Mom, Mom, I don't really want to eat anything. I'm going to stroll around the garden first. You go ahead. Then I walked out of the room and walked towards the garden. When I arrived at the rose pool in the garden, I stood there and looked at the roses. I thought of the flower pool that Duanmu had made for me at Duanmu K's house. My mood instantly dropped. When I thought of Duanmu K, my whole state of mind became bad again. At that moment, the phone in my hand rang. I picked it up and saw that it was Duanmu Quebec. Why would he take the initiative to call me? I hesitated for a moment, but still decided to pick up the phone. "Hello," I said in a low voice. "Hello what? Where are you?" He asked me fiercely. I was stunned. It seemed that he still hadn't calmed down. I hadn't done anything wrong. Why did he have to be so humble? I said confidently into the phone, "I'm at home." "What's wrong?" "Which house are you at?" Duanmu K asked. "I'm at my own house. I told you I'll be back for 2 days." I was almost angered to death by Duanmu K's question. Duanmu K sighed and said, "Come back." Was he trying to persuade me to go back? But why did his tone sound so strange? It was as if he was trying to force me to go back. I didn't say anything. Duanmu K saw that I didn't answer, so he continued, "Come back quickly. When you left, Dad, Mom, and Xinyao all ran over to ask me what happened. How would I know what happened to you? You didn't tell me." I immediately understood. It turned out that he was trying to persuade me to come back because he couldn't explain himself. I laughed and said, "So, without all this pressure, you wouldn't have taken the initiative to contact me, right?" Duanmu K sighed again. His tone suddenly became gentle. He whispered to me, "Honey, let's be good, okay? Come back quickly. Dad and Mom have already lectured me. They said that I don't know how to be considerate, that I don't know how to care about you. I'll slowly change in the future, okay? I don't want you to be under so much pressure. I just feel that a lot of things have happened recently. Your attitude towards me has changed a lot. I'm also trying to figure out my own problems. Is it because I'm not good enough to you? Is that why others took advantage of me? So let's calm down and think about it for a few days. We'll talk again when we understand, okay? That you're tuning in to the Whispers of Romance YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.